On digital radio,
FM,
online at BBC Sports Scotland,
your smart speaker,
and BBC Sounds.
This is Sportsound from BBC Radio Scotland.
Scottish football lives here.
Yes, good afternoon and welcome to Sportsound with me, Alistair Lamont. So much to play for this afternoon on the final weekend of the Viaplay Cup group stage, with 21 teams still in with a chance of qualifying for the knockout rounds. We're at 8 of this afternoon's games and we'll keep you up to date as best we can with all of the action around the country. I fried my brain yesterday trying to get my head round all the permutations for today's games, so I'm delighted to say Leanne Crichton is with me in the studio to keep me right as the goals fly in. Leanne, good afternoon, and also what for you are the pick of the games today?
All of the games, Al, because you've teed it up lovely. There's so many big ones, so many teams have performed well, and at this stage of the tournament there's still plenty of teams that can progress and have got lots to play for. I think looking even at Spartans, the way that they've performed, interested at that one against Partick Thistle, travelling to Firhill today to see how they can get on. They've already produced a shock, as we know, earlier in the competition. And probably the Ross County Kelty Hearts one. Again, Ross County, a team that I've kind of been keeping an eye on in terms of their recruitment and how they're going to look this season. But Kelty Hearts as well, a side under the lead of Michael Tidser. I'm intrigued to see how they get on this season as well. But there's loads of games, so much action, and I'm actually really glad that we're on open all mics this afternoon to keep across the action and beat so many games. Yeah,
that should be good. There have been some pretty impressive performances by some of the lower league teams, as you mentioned. Kelty, very much one of them. Forfar are on 9 points away to St Mirren today. East Fife on 8 at Fir Park, and you mentioned the Spartans as well. And Kelty still have a chance. Do you see ultimately any of them getting through?
I don't see why not. I think it's a game today that they'll embrace. They'll look to go and try and produce other, cup shocks. I'm sure they've got a belief among the squad. It's probably a lot of the teams have treated this as pre-season, but we know you don't get away with that type of cliche comment in a competition. There's already pressure. So I would imagine that they'll throw everything that they possibly can at it, and I would expect by the end of today that there will be at least a shock within that.
You would imagine so. We'll also have a look back at Hibs' performance on Thursday in their Europa Conference League qualifier, the latest in a pretty long line of ignominious defeats for Scottish teams in Europe. Rory Loy and I covered that game on Thursday, and Rory, we can get back into that in a bit. But today you're at one of the most interesting games, I think, St Mirren against Forfar, with Forfar going great guns and Stephen Robinson's side needing to win to overtake them at the top of Group H.
Yes, indeed, Al. It is all to play for here in Paisley as high-flying Forfar come to town. Many managers and clubs, Al, claim to incorporate these games into their pre-season programmes. I've no idea why, given the 3 or 4 games most clubs have played before the group games start, and the fact that they are competing to progress into the next round of a major domestic cup competition. That being said, this fixture today is anything but a pre-season feel to it, with a winner-takes-all scenario. I expect an old-fashioned cup tie and hopefully a few goals to boot. St Mirren, of course, crashed out at this stage last year, and there must have been a feeling of deja vu on match day 1 as Montrose defeated Stephen Robertson's New Look side. 2 wins from 2 since then. It means a win today would leave the Buddies as group winners. I'll just go through the team news now as they make 2 changes from the win against Cowdenbeath. Out go Boyd Muntz and Dunn, in come captain Mark O'Hara, and new signing Connor McMenamin, who signed from Glentoran. It's 4-3-3 with Hemming in the goal, a back 3 of Fraser, Gogic and Taylor. Strain and Tanzer are the wing backs, with a midfield 3 of Bacchus, O'Hara and McMenamin. Mandarin and Nahami lead the line. Midweek goal hero Olasanya needs to make do with a place on the bench, and it's one change for Ray McKinnon's side. Out goes Callum Moore, in comes Thomas Brindley. They line up 3-4-3. Mark McCallum between the sticks. Matthew Allen, Adam Hutchinson and captain Stuart Morrison make up the back 3, with Roberto Ndite, Finn Robson, Mark Watley and Thomas Brindley in midfield. Seb Ross and Kieran Ingalls will supply the width, and hopefully for their sake will supply lone striker Josh Skelly. The referee is Matthew McDermott, and it's all set up nicely for this afternoon here in Paisley, Al.
It very much is. St Mirren, as I say, need to win to guarantee first. Forfar, anything other than defeat guarantees them first. And really interesting to see how Ray McKinnon does. You would imagine they'll be really pushing for promotion this season from League 2. Just keeping an eye on some of the friendlies that are going on involving some of the Scottish clubs today as well. Celtic are in Dublin and are playing Wolves. They've just kicked off a few minutes ago. They're already 1 up, and no great surprise to see that Kyogo was on the score sheet out there. So we'll try and keep you across some of the friendly goals that are going in as well. And Aberdeen are playing against Charlton, and sounds like they're winning 3-0 already, although that game kicked off at 1 o'clock, I think. So some goals flying in there. Now then, another winner-takes-all game at Fir Park this afternoon between Motherwell and East Fife. Stephen Craigan is there for us. Both sides unbeaten so far, Stephen, but are you expecting this to be a comfortable afternoon for the home side?
I think that would be a little bit disrespectful to East Fife, Al. You know, they've probably been the surprise package in Group G. I'm not too sure many would have given them a chance that on match day 4 they'd have had a real chance of winning the group if he'd come to Fir Park and got a win. So I think they'll take plenty of heart from that. Motherwell should win the game. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think they have better players, are higher up the pyramid. But sometimes cup football can inspire the opposition, and you only have to look at the likes of East Fife, and they've got quite a good experienced squad, guys who've been around the block and have played in bigger games. So I don't think coming here to Fir Park will faze them in any way at all. So, but for Stuart Kettlewell, you know, it's probably the conundrum that most managers in the top flight, or even you speak to most managers around the country, they're looking for someone to score goals on a regular basis. Kevin Van Veen's a name that will, you know, be talked about around Fir Park for many years to come. So we might as well speak about it for the next few weeks. Him going out of the team or leaving the football club means there's a huge hole to fill. John Obika isn't actually involved today. He's out missing this. They brought in Connor Wilkinson over the summer, but they're really light in forward areas. So even last weekend against Queen's Park, they had 4 or 5 really good opportunities and only managed to win the game by a single goal to nil. So a little bit of work to do on that front for them. But if they go and play the way they can, then I'm sure Stuart Kettlewell will hope they can be 2 defeats in 18 games. It would be if they manage to win this game this afternoon. So they do make 3 changes from the team that beat Queen's Park 1-0 last week. They have had a free week, which is good for them because Stuart Kettlewell likes to get on the training ground, working with his players. He talks about the shape and all aspects of the game, so he probably will have had a good week. So the 3 changes: Liam Kelly drops out, Stephen O'Donnell drops out, John Obika said's not even on the bench, so he must be carrying some sort of injury. In comes Ashton Oxborough, the goalkeeper, Bevis McGabby and Harry Payton for his first start of the season. So Motherwell will line up with Ashton Oxborough in goals. A back 3 is Bevis McGabby, Dan Casey and Shane Blaney. 2 wing backs, Paul McGinn on the right hand side and Pat Swary on the left hand side. The 3 midfield players will be Lennon Miller, Callum Slattery and Blair Spittle, and Harry Payton will play off Connor Wilkinson, who's still looking for his first goal as a Motherwell striker. As for East Fife, well, they make 4 changes from the side that went to Palmerston Park during the week. Managed to get a 0-0 draw and win in penalties, so they got the bonus point. Out goes Pat Slattery, Ryan Barry, Nathan Austin and Kieran Miller. So they line up with Alan Fleming, Liam Newton, Jonathan Page, Conor McManus, the ex-Celtic player, Scott Shepherd, who's also played with Falkirk, the very experienced Alan Troughton, Jack Healy, Gregor Nicol, Sean Dockery, Broken Walls and Brian Easton, who of course has played in many Lanarkshire derbies for Hamilton against Motherwell.
Yeah, it's a really intriguing one, Stephen, for Park, but just in general, in terms of Motherwell, obviously Stuart Kettlewell did do a pretty fine job when he took over last season. What for you are the realistic expectations going into the season, and how important do you think actually a positive League Cup campaign can be in terms of then giving yourself that platform for the league season?
Well, first of all, I think having a good League Cup campaign means you've something to look forward to. You've got a last 16 tie to look forward to. Potentially, if they win this afternoon, could be enough. I mean, you're the man that's worked it all out, all the theories of what happens in each group. But if they win, there's a good chance they could be a seeded team in the next stage if results go their way this afternoon. So that means then that they've a possibility of getting to a quarter-final. Then you start thinking about Hampden Park in a semi-final. So I think that just builds momentum within a club. Everyone starts to feel good about themselves. The confidence starts to flow. The fans start to relate to the team on the pitch. So I think that's vitally important to get yourself off to a good start in the cup campaign. Realistic target, I mean, you speak to people within Fir Park, they don't like to think too high or think too big because they know how important it is to be a top flight club. So anything above 11th, so you're talking 10th, 9th, 8th, just to make sure they're a Premiership club is first and foremost. But I'm sure Stuart Kettlewell, after the end to last season and the supporters away, they ended last season with a head of steam, that they will hope that they can get off to a good start. I think fixtures are quite kind to them in the opening 3 or 4 weeks. Certainly games there they can go and win. Dundee in the opening day up at Dens Park. They'll think they're well set to go up there and get themselves 3 points and get themselves off to a good start. So, Stuart always sets his team up well. He always speaks very well. The structure and the organisation of Motherwell will be vital for them this season. I just think at this moment in time, they haven't got a real game changer. They haven't got someone with lots of pace. They haven't got an out-and-out goal scorer. They don't have a real creative spark who can unlock the door in really tight games. And when we watch Scottish Premiership games, they're so competitive, they're so compact, they are so tight. And I don't think Motherwell have got that player at this moment in time who can go and be the difference like a Van Veen last season potentially. So Stuart, I'd imagine, will be looking for one more at the top end of the pitch, whether it's an out-and-out striker or whether it's someone with pace and a creative spark. But certainly I think they need to add in that area of the pitch.
Okay, Stephen will keep us up to date with goings on for Park over the course of this afternoon. It's first against second in Group G. Motherwell, anything other than defeat guarantees them first place. East Fife, just a point behind them on 7 points. A win would guarantee them first, and a bonus point win may be enough to qualify in second. They would still be behind Motherwell on goal difference with a bonus point win. So we'll see how things transpire there. Now, Ross County preserved their Premiership status at the end of last season by the skin of their teeth, but they've started the League Cup campaign well with 3 wins from 3. They host Kelty, who still have a slim chance of qualification. Michael Stewart is in the Highlands for us this afternoon. Would you expect County to continue that winning streak today, Mikey?
Yeah, I would think so. Al, it's the fact that obviously they have maximum points in the table so far. Coming up against Kelty, as you quite rightly said, there's obviously the outside chance that they can potentially get through the group here, although it is a bit of a long shot. I would expect that Ross County at home here are going to be the side that will have the better chances of winning this game and going out of the group with maximum points.
Leanne, you touched on Ross County as a team that you're interested to see how. I mean, clearly they have started well this season, and you were talking about keeping an eye on their recruitment. It strikes me that, unlike maybe the last couple of seasons, there hasn't been quite the huge turnover that Malky Mackay has kind of been forced into in previous times. Would you feel like that's probably a positive thing
Yeah, I think that really helps. Yeah. Absolutely. I think for any side, unless for whatever reason you need to orchestrate that overhaul yourself, but I don't think Malky Mackay necessarily would want that. I think he's always wanted to just add to the group. I think it was really detrimental last season that they had to bring in so many players, and you could see that from performances. I think they struggled throughout the season at certain points. They managed to survive, which for them is excellent as a club. But even just looking now, the fact that you bring Simon Murray, for example, in during the season, he doesn't quite hit the heights that you perhaps would have wanted from him, but he was influential in the playoff matches and he's hit the ground running in pre-season, so it looks to me like he's a player that's now up to speed as well, and I'm sure Malky Mackay will be desperate for him to play a part this season.
Yeah, you'd have to imagine that a player of Simon Murray's quality, Mikey, can go and play and score goals in the Premiership. I think Mikey's actually dropped off, but yeah, I mean, Simon Murray's a player we watched a lot in the Championship at the start of last season, scored so many goals for Queen's Park, and as you say, it didn't quite happen for him when he made the move to County, but with Jordan White also able to chip in the goals, you would have to imagine they've got their sights set on a better season this time round. Yeah,
no doubt about it. And working, even I was on the pro licence in the summer as well, and Don Cowie was on that course as well, and of course he's assistant up there at Ross County, so even just getting a look at guys like Don Cowie in greater detail and seeing the work that they put in, the type of people that they are, the way they coach, the influence that they've got, I was really impressed, so I can only imagine that this period in the season has been really vital for them to get those players up to speed. But you're right, the firepower is everything, and Craggs is speaking about Motherwell, the fact that they probably lack that just now, and the reality is goals win you football games. And what it looks like just now is that Ross County, certainly in this period of the season, have managed to find goals that are winning them games, and they'll be hoping that continues into the Premiership season when it gets up and running.
Yeah, very much so. So just to clarify the situation for them, any points at all today guarantees Ross County first place. They can actually win the group even with a narrow defeat, but that will depend also on Morton's goal difference. As far as Kelty are concerned, Mikey said it's an outside chance that they can still qualify. They are currently in third place. It's a bit of a problematic one. They need to win by 3 goals to leapfrog Ross County, and then they would win the group if Morton don't win or win by just 1 goal. That's one of the ones we can get into in more detail if it looks like that might happen. That is certainly one of the ones that began to scramble my brain yesterday. Anyway, we'll get news, team news and so on from all the other grounds that we've got reporters and pundits at in the next few minutes. But let's, before that, turn our attention back to Hibernian on Thursday night. That defeat in Andorra, 2-1 loss to Inter Escaldes, who were runners-up in last season's Andorran league. Rory, I'll come to you first because, as I mentioned, you and I commentated on what can only be described as a debacle. A couple of days on, what are your reflections on what we saw?
Well, nothing much changed in my view, Al. Like I said, I listened to Lee Johnson's interview afterwards, and to be fair to him, he did touch on the conditions, the elements, the difficulty of the pitch, the size of the pitch, and all the different things, as well as being quite critical of his own players, something which he's known for doing during tough times last season as well. But you've only got to analyse the ease of the second goal. Just summed up Hibs as a whole. David Marshall made a mistake. That happens. It shouldn't happen, but it did happen. But the ease in which that goal was allowed to happen, a 70-yard punt up the pitch, leading to a shot on goal, leading to a tap-in, just summed up Hibs' performance. They were slow and laboured in midfield. You have to move the ball quickly against a low block, which I'm sure they were expecting. Lee Johnson did say he gave all the players the information they needed to go and get the job done. I felt like they just lacked impetus. It was like they got taken by surprise, like they almost didn't have the information. But, out of possession, that team were there for the taking. Far too much time on the ball Inter were given at the back, coupled with the fact they didn't go and press, they didn't try and win the ball back, coupled with the fact that they were so slow in possession that against a low block, it makes it easy to do because you're not getting moved around, you're not getting shifted. And they'll be thanking their lucky stars that Joe Newell stepped up and managed to get that free kick in the back of the net with a couple of minutes to play.
Yeah, before we speak to some of the other guys on this, let's just have a listen back to what Lee Johnson, the Hibs manager, had to say straight after the game.
What was your take on that?
It was disappointing, wasn't it? I thought first half we were really, really poor. Don't know why, they had all the information, the lads, in terms of what the opposition were like, and that proved to be that. I think, I don't want to give excuses because we just weren't good enough, but the altitude seemed a bit of a problem in terms of the lads getting the breath in. But I think individuals were just kicking the ball out of play, scruffy, sloppy, and it was really disappointing to see. I thought the second half, we made the shape change. We put Christian on, we brought Joe Newell on. I thought we were much better in the second half. Statistically, we would have been better. We had more shots, more box entries, more crosses. But obviously, we wasn't expecting to concede the second goal like we did, and that made our goal really important. And look, it's a completely different tie. Obviously, coming back to Easter Road, with our fans behind us, with a bit to do. There's no doubt in that. But straight away, we tried to change the tone very quickly into now you've seen it and now you've felt it. I told you it wasn't a given, and it's a wake-up call for us big time. And therefore we've got to go and produce in the second leg.
Yeah, certainly do. Lee Johnson, the Hibs manager, talking to reporter Brian McLaughlin out in Andorra after that 2-1 defeat to Inter Escaldes. Stephen Craigan, I know you watched the game as well. What was your take on it as a whole, and also what Lee Johnson had to say there?
I think first and foremost it was a very honest assessment, and there's no doubt Lee Johnson will have looked at what he'd done and how he approached the game, but we can't always keep pointing the finger at managers. The players will have known deep down what this game is all about. Yes, they were favourites. Yes, the pitch was tight and the conditions weren't ideal. It was warmer than what they're used to playing in. But sometimes players have to take a little bit of responsibility. They have to put their head above the parapet and think, hold on a minute, maybe I've got to go and show what I can do. Or I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just maybe lose the game or not play well, and the manager will get the blame. That's just the kind of sense of what I got from the Hibs players. I look around that squad and I have to say I don't see an out-and-out leader. I don't see anyone on the pitch demanding off others and asking questions of others. And sometimes, even if you're not playing well yourself, that's the job that someone has to do, just to show that you're trying to inspire and motivate and drive people around about you. Because there was enough warning signs last season for Hibs to say that the pressure can build very quickly at Easter Road. The fans can turn very quickly. There were numerous spells last year where they struggled to win games. They did two heavy Derby defeats 3-0 at Tynecastle and at Easter Road. I think that was twice in 4 games. So Lee Johnson knows the expectations, and he speaks about it regularly. He spoke about it ahead of that game, about Hibs being a big club in Scotland, having to compete in Europe every year, challenging at the top end of the table. But on the flip side to that, I would ask, are Hibs better equipped at this stage of the season than what they were last year? Are they a better side and a better squad? And having watched that game, Alistair, I don't think they are. I still think there's a lot of work to be done at Hibs, albeit Martin Boyle wasn't involved. He'll make a difference. I get all that, and there'll be a few signings still possibly come in, but normally a summer transfer window or any transfer window is to make you better. And I'm not too sure at this moment in time Hibs are any better than what they were last season. And if they want to go and challenge for the top four and they want to challenge for that third place and win big games and get the cup finals, I think they have to be better. Not just that, but they have to be better as a squad. And the standout one for me was nothing against Adam Lafondra. I don't know him. I've already looked at his career. But bringing in a centre forward and starting him at 36 years of age. Hibs need players who've got their career ahead of them, not players who've got careers behind them, Alistair. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. I still think they'll beat Inter. I think they've got more than enough to beat them. Eli Yuhan, I know Rory said in commentary, it's a strange comment to make, but sometimes he's Hibs' best player but also the worst player. But he was the only player that took a little bit of responsibility and took the ball and tried to run at them and tried to drive at people and trying to play his natural game. The rest of them, for me, looked as if they were passing the buck and hoping someone else would do it.
Michael, you're back with us. Lee Johnson said beforehand that in terms of recruitment, he was still hoping to do more business, but he felt he had enough in his squad at the moment to get through not only that tie, but the opening weeks of the season until he could add more. That result would very much suggest otherwise, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, you would think so. I mean, look, first of all, it's embarrassment. It really is. There's nothing short of embarrassment. I know that Lee Johnson obviously wanted to avoid talking about that and saying that the tie is very much alive. Those two things can be, coexist. It's an embarrassing result, and yes, the tie's still alive. Hibs should not be losing to Inter in Andorra. Plain and simple. They've got more than enough in the team to go and beat teams like that. And I know what Craigs is saying, and he's not wrong. Players have got to take a fair element of responsibility. But Lee Johnson as a manager, I just get the sense when he's talking there, it's all subtly pointing towards, it's not my fault, it's the players' fault. I've given them all the information, and that proved to be correct, all that sort of stuff. And I didn't like that. It's not my cup of tea. Lee Johnson's been a couple of occasions fortunate, I would suggest, that serious pressure, but I think he stayed in a position because Hibs have had a turnover of managers quite quick.
No, he's away again. I'm going to have to sort that out. But Michael cut off on his prime. But Leanne,
can I just
absolutely.
Can I just say as well, on the flip side, talking about Eli Yuhan, who, for me, to kind of just go back to what I was saying before, in terms of his build-up play, getting into positions to hurt teams, he's arguably one of the best in the league. Once he gets in there, his final product, his end product, is arguably one of the worst in the league. And it's, in my opinion, the player, not just the player, but Lee Johnson and the coaching staff's responsibility to work with him to make him a better player, because he's got all the attributes there to be a top player in this league, but he needs to be coached and he needs to be taught how to play, when to pass the ball, when to dribble, and I would like to see progression from him at the start of this season, because they've had a full pre-season to work with him, plenty of games, and he's a player that has got a lot of potential, and with the right coaching and with the right set of instructions, should be able to improve his game to a point where he's very, very strong and very potent for Hibs.
Leanne, I was going to say that there were social media clips after the game of Hibs fans out there having what Kenny McIntyre might describe as a right go at the Hibs players and indeed the management. Are they well within their rights, those fans who've shelled out for the trip to Andorra, to vent their anger in that way?
Yeah, I think so, because as the guys have touched on, Michael alluded to it as well, Hibs is a club that it brings pressure and expectation as well, and I think the fans have been patient with a lot of decisions that the club have made as well, and the way they've disposed of certain managers, the turnover in management. Is the club really doing things the way that the fans ideally would want to see the club ran? I'm not overly convinced. I don't think there's continuity there. I don't think there's a belief in an element of trust that would withstand a result like that. So I can understand why the fans have took the opportunity to vent, because it is this stage of the season where you want to see positive signs. You want to look, I think it was, Stephen's mentioning it, you want to look at the Hibs side and see, did they look stronger? Did they look a better side than they did last season? Probably not. So the fans have seen that, they've seen the result. As you mentioned, Al, they've spent a lot of money to go there and support their team early on in the season. And I think it's a shocking result, as Michael said, and it is an embarrassing result for the club. So no doubt they'll vent their frustration. I'm sure they'll want to see the team bounce back. No doubt they want them to progress within this competition as well. So you want them to get that result. But I do believe that the jury, for me, is still out on Lee Johnson.
Mikey, in terms of, you touched there on the pressure that had come on Lee Johnson a couple of times last season. That I think we all generally applaud boards when they show a bit of loyalty to managers, but guess everyone's quite quick to criticise when they do the opposite. But has this result immediately put that focus back on Lee Johnson, made his position more precarious again?
To answer the bigger question that you're putting forward there in terms of applauding boards for sticking with and showing loyalty, I'm not really fussed about that, to be perfectly honest. I'm more interested in boards making the right decision, and ultimately that comes down to that's their choice. They decide when it's right to call time on a manager or when they should stick with one. I think a lot of it is quite clearly framed, as I said, I don't know if it dropped off at that point, by the fact that they had changed managers very quickly and they were scared to do it again.
Yeah.
Now, to me, it's about making the right decisions and having the courage of your convictions and believing in what you're trying to do. Now, they chucked out, obviously, they were going to look for a director of football. That got delayed slightly with the sad passing of Ron Gordon. And now Brian McDermott's in there, which on the face of it I think is a very good piece of business from Hibs. But I heard Leanne there just saying that Lee Johnson's been fortunate, or he's been, the jury's out. Yeah, I would think that's fair. Last season was a lot of peaks and troughs, and now the pressure is firmly back on, because that result is an embarrassment. Yes, they should get through, and I think they will, but that doesn't take away the fact that it's an embarrassing result.
Stephen, just going back to the notion of the squad and the position it's in and how it compares to the same point last season, there is obviously Will Fish, we know, is coming back in on a season-long loan from Man United. Martin Boyle was on the bench and sounds like he's just about ready to play a part in competitive action, having been out since October. And there's also, it seems like Dylan Vent is going to come in from Roda, another striker who they're going to pay money for. So at least there is some positives there for the Hibs fans to look at in terms of the squad.
Well, there is, but clearly it's needed the work. I mean, the Will Fish one was always going to be difficult, because as soon as Man United say that they were going away on a pre-season tour, he was going to be late coming in. So at least he's up to speed. Dylan Vent is another one you mentioned. Why was this deal not done at the start of the window? Why has it not been done earlier? Is it a case of Hibs trying to penny pinch? I don't know. Are they trying to strike a deal? But surely when you sell Kevin Nisbet, you need to bring in someone who's going to bring you goals, who's going to guarantee you goals, and not a 36-year-old Adam Lafondre who may be a good squad player and will set a good example for the younger players. But they needed someone to come in and lead the line, and not come in days before the Premiership season kicks off and halfway through a European tie. That's talking about planning and preparation. That's why Brian McDermott's in there, is to try and get these deals over the line to give Hibs the best possible chance of success. Lewis Stevenson is a player I've always admired, I've always liked. I think he's a wonderful player, has been a wonderful player. But still, to be Hibs' first choice left back at the age of 35, that's not to his detriment, that's the detriment of everyone else behind him, and managers in the past not being able to bring in someone who's better than him. So that's the kind of things Hibs are looking at. Yes, he may be a good squad player and he may play a few games, but to start the season, they may have wanted something a little bit more. I know they brought in Riley J. Harbottle, but he didn't start. Goalkeeping wise as well, they brought in Joe Wallacott and they started David Marshall. So they almost went with what they had last year. Mm-hmm. Rocky, there's been question marks about him. I think he looked really nervous in the game. Chris Cadden being out injured meant that Lewis Miller in the right-hand side, I don't think he's going to be a proper Hibs player. I think they need to probably replace there as well. They're not going to get enough from him. So Dylan Levitt was someone they brought in. He looked to me like he was struggling a little bit even from the back end of last season. I know he didn't play and he spoke about an injury and concussion, but wasn't the same player he was in his first spell at Dundee United. So there's lots of question marks, and when you're on the brink of starting a new Premiership season with high expectations and demands from supporters, and now they're on the back foot, now you're going to see what their character's like. You're going to see really what these Hibs players are like. They see they can step up and play under the pressure.
Rory, I suppose the bottom line for Hibs is, as embarrassing as that result in isolation was, they need to get through the tie. Did you see enough in that first leg, or do you think Hibs have enough about them, generally speaking, to turn it round?
Yeah, I think they do have enough to turn it round. And as much as you don't like to make excuses and things like that. The amount of diagonal passes that flew out of the pitch was quite unbelievable the other night. So I think when the bigger pitch comes along at Easter Road, better playing surface, I would expect them to be on the front foot as well. If he goes with 2 strikers, get up and get after the inter back 4. Don't give them time to pass the ball around. And I think a quick start and an early goal may set the tone. And I do believe that they will progress. But the problem Lee Johnson's got is, if they do progress, he's got to go and play an away tie again. He's not going to get all his games at Easter Road. So yes, I think they will go through. And if they do go through, to answer your question, I don't think it'll paper over the cracks of that result and that defeat, because if they are to come up against an opposition of a higher standard in difficult conditions, then if they play like that again, they could get a bit of a hiding.
Leanne, just to maybe wrap this kind of particular discussion up for the moment, it does seem like it's almost like an annual inquest though nowadays, isn't it? If it's not Hibs, it's Motherwell last season losing to Sligo Rovers. We are discussing embarrassing results for Scottish clubs all too often.
We are, and that's probably something that needs to change, and the clubs need to take a bit more ownership as well with that. Michael spoke about Lee Johnson's comments there and kind of forcing it more so on the players and about the players taking responsibility, but ultimately as a club I think you've got the resources, you understand the scheduling, you want to be in these competitions, so surely the foresight is that you look ahead and you plan to be part of it, therefore you have your squad in place, you have enough preparation, you have enough training hours and contact time, etc, and you look to get your signings in early. But the looks of it, Scottish clubs don't quite act like that, and we get caught cold far too many times, certainly in these early stages of the European competitions, and it's not good obviously for the country and the nation, and we want to see teams there. So I think for me it's on the clubs, not so much the players.
We're going to cross to Murrayfield shortly for a bit of rugby chat, but before we do that, Michael, I don't think when we were chatting Ross County Kelty earlier on we quite managed to get the team news from you. Do you have that to hand? He's away again. Michael Stewart always letting us down. Well, in that case, I think we will just head to Murrayfield, will we, where our reporter Andy Burke hopefully has got his technology working ahead of Scotland against Italy in the first of a number of summer matches, which essentially are World Cup warm-ups. Are you with us, Andy?
I certainly am, Al. Good afternoon.
A good man. How's things over there?
Not bad. It was torrential rain as I was driving through, Al, so I was a bit worried about this match as a spectacle, but pleased to report it's dried up, just a little bit of wind in the air, conditions look good, and an interesting match in prospect. Scotland looking much changed, a bit of an experimental lineup that Gregor Townsend's gone with in the first of what will be 4 World Cup warm-up matches. They play Italy today, back-to-back games to come against France, and then they round off their schedule against Georgia ahead of the tournament in the autumn. So it'll be interesting to see how some of the guys coming in perform, because you would expect with games against France, one of the best teams in the world, coming up in the next few weeks, that Gregor Townsend will be going a lot stronger for those games than he has for this one.
And Rory Darge captaining Scotland today for the first time. What can you tell us about him, and is he someone who's in contention to captain Scotland going forward consistently, or is this very much, as you say, part of the kind of makeshift element of this game?
Possibly long-term, Al. He could be a future Scotland captain. I think Jamie Ritchie's got that role nailed down for the immediate future anyway. You'd imagine his spot in the plane to France is guaranteed. He's rested today. Rory Darge, it's just his 8th cap, but he's really come on the scene in an impressive way. Only 23, this is only his 8th appearance, only his 2nd appearance for Scotland at Murrayfield, but he's one of these guys, Al, that he's just a consistent 8 or 9 out of 10 every time he takes the field. Gregor Townsend described him during the week as a world-class talent, and anyone that's watched Glasgow Warriors over the past few years would certainly agree with that. He started off at Edinburgh, couldn't get into the Edinburgh side, believe it or not, because of Jamie Ritchie, because of Hamish Watson and numerous others, and he has just lit up Scotland since he went through to Glasgow. So he admitted himself when I spoke to Rory Darge yesterday, he was surprised so early in his international career that he's been made captain, but I don't think there's too many dissenting voices. I think he's a guy that will lead by example, and he'll be hoping to lead Scotland to a victory today.
I know we've got, as you say, 4 games to go before the World Cup, but just generally speaking, how confident and positive are Scotland feeling about the prospects for France?
Well, if you look at the team and the squad, you would say it's bubbling up quite nicely. The Six Nations was encouraging, good victories over England and Wales, ran France very close in Paris, and gave Ireland, the number one team in the world, a good game for 40-50 minutes here at Murrayfield before the Irish class eventually told, and then rounded off with a victory over Italy. So all that, 3 wins from 5 would point towards a positive outlook, but then you can't get away from the pool of death that Scotland find themselves in France at the World Cup. They are up against Ireland, the top ranked team in the world. They open their campaign against South Africa, the defending champions. It is an absolutely brutal draw, and it's a bit of a ridiculous draw given it was made 2.5 years ago. And we've been left with a situation where 3 of the top 5 teams in the world, Scotland currently ranked 5th, are in the same pool, and if by some chance they manage to escape from that pool, there's only France or New Zealand waiting in the quarterfinals. So yeah, easy enough.
Good stuff, Andy. We'll hear from you again at half-time in the football. Andy Burke there from Murrayfield ahead of Scotland against Italy in the Rugby World Cup warm-up now. Michael Stewart again is back with us. We're going to try and get some team news. Mikey, can you give us that? I know. No, he's still not there. So let's cross to Firhill, where there's another really interesting match. It's Partick Thistle against the Spartans. Both sides can still top the group there, looking to leapfrog Dundee United. There for us this afternoon is Thomas Duncan. Thomas, how's things looking up there?
Afternoon, Al. I'm sitting chittering at the back of the Jackie Husband stand here at Firhill, which is incredible given when I walked in a t-shirt the sun was shining, but the rain's been coming down and it's really windy and freezing. But I'm hoping that this match will warm things up. As you say, it's winner takes all. Partick Thistle unbeaten in the group against Spartans, who have been arguably one of the stories of this League Cup group stage. Of course, they opened their campaign with a fantastic home win against Dundee United, that 1-0 win. Only the second time ever they'd beaten a full-time team as they embark on their first season in the SPFL, having been promoted from the Lowland League last season. They backed that up. They were just beaten by Falkirk, conceded a late goal, 88th minute goal, and then they managed to go up to Peterhead and win at Balmoor to kind of keep themselves in contention for winning this group. So yeah, it's incredibly exciting. I'll run through the teams for you. Partick Thistle have made a couple of changes. Jamie Snedden, the goalkeeper, has dropped out. Ben Stanway has also gone out in midfield. So David Mitchell has come in the goals, and James Lyon, who scored a fantastic equaliser against Falkirk, the young academy player, he came on and scored a late equaliser volley against Falkirk, so he's been rewarded with a start. So Partick Thistle line up with Mitchell in goal, back four of Xander McKenzie, another academy player, usually a midfielder playing in a makeshift right back role, Adam Muirhead and Wasiri Williams as the centre backs. Harry Milne, fresh from signing a new contract to 2025, he's at left back. It's Bannigan, Ben Williamson and Lyon, as I said, in midfield, with Stevie Lawless and Aidan Fitzpatrick either side of Brian Graham. As for Spartans, they've made 3 changes. Kieran Watson, Brad White and Cammy Russell drop out. Sonkour, Morrison and Denham come in. It looks like they're going to play a back 5. Blair Carswell, who was or the cat as they call him at Spartans, he saved a penalty in the playoffs as well as they made it through to League 2, and saved a penalty to deny Tony Watt in that win against Dundee United. Fantastic save it was too. He's in goals. Looks like 3 centre backs: Kevin Watt, Ayrton Sonkour, Jordan Tapping, with Mikey Allen and Dishington as the wing backs. In midfield, the experienced James Cragen, formerly of Arbroath among other clubs, very experienced midfielder, with Gavin Morrison and Danny Denham, another experienced operator in the SPFL, and then Rhys Armstrong, who was outstanding in that game against Dundee United. He's playing off Blair Henderson, who's scored in every game in this League Cup group stage so far. I'll not run through the entire benches, but there's a couple of notable players on the Partick Thistle bench. Tommy Adaloy, who signed yesterday, who will be familiar to Ayr United fans. He was at Somerset Park a couple of years ago, scored 14 goals, so he's joined on loan from Swindon Town. He's on the bench, could make his debut, as could Blair Alston, who has signed after leaving Kilmarnock in the summer. He is signed up and he's on the bench, so could make his debut. Thistle just announced that just an hour before kick-off. So yeah, really exciting, and obviously Falkirk will be paying close attention to this one, because if they manage to beat Peterhead at home, then they could potentially, if there's a draw here, sneak through, but we'll not get into the weeds of that yet. We'll just say it's winner takes all here for now.
Yeah, it certainly is. Partick Thistle against the Spartans. Thanks for that, Thomas Duncan. Let's head to Clifton Hill, where Albion Rovers are hosting Kilmarnock, who are looking to ensure their qualification this afternoon. There for us is Martin Dowden.
Yes, a lovely looking surface here, albeit some rather interesting contours in and around both 6-yard boxes and in some of the wide areas. Dunfermline lead the group, as you say, not in action today, having completed their campaign already. They could still qualify depending on what occurs today. Kilmarnock know they win, they go top, and you'd expect them to do just that. We can go through all the permutations as play unfolds. After reading your own expert online piece, Sal, slightly geeky but very informative. That'll take all the listeners through all of that. Albion Rovers can't qualify off the back of a 3-0 loss to Dunfermline. In terms of team news, the home side made just one change. In comes McCall, out drops Prince. Looks like a 4-3-3, maybe reverting to a 4-5-1. It's Connolly in goals. Back four of Fernie, Fagan, Duffy, McCaw, McMahon, Duncan and Wilson across midfield with Bevan, McCall on the wings supporting Joseph. On the bench, McMenemy, Walker, Patterson, Tran, Prince and Henderson. 3 changes for Derek McInnes's Kilmarnock. In come Dees, McGuinness and Watkins. Out drop in Daba, Polworth and Watson. Again, it looks like a 3-5-2. A bit of debate around this formation. Derek not giving much away before kick-off. It's Dennis in goal, 3 at the back, I think. Dees, Finlay and Mayo. Lions behind Armstrong, Murphy, McGuinness and Kennedy, with Cameron and Watkins up front. On the bench, O'Hara, Sanders and Daba, Davies, McInroy, Watson, Polworth, Vassell and Wales. Dan McFarlane is the referee. Apparently no team sheets as the printer isn't working here, and given the number of pillars in my line of sight, you can expect an absolute shambles from me all afternoon.
Well, some things never change. Thanks very much, Martin Dowden. Will keep us across things at Clifton Hill, and Martin has been speaking to Derek McInnes. Let's hear what you had to say.
Derek, I know you place a lot of importance on cup competitions, an opportunity to seal your progress today on a pretty good surface. A bit bumpy here and there though.
Yeah, we came and watched the game against Dunfermline midweek. Alan Archibald, myself, and we commented on the pitch, and you know, it's a good surface. Sometimes at this stage of the season, the cup competition allows you to have good surfaces, and it's I have no complaints on that front. So looking forward to the game. Obviously it's in our hands if we can go and win the game, top the group, and job done. But equally we've still got a job to do. So I think sometimes through the group stages it can be easy for players and people to think it's a group stage, you can always make up for the next game, and there's always another opportunity, which is so different to cup football. But it's clear now when it comes to this stage, it feels like a cup tie, that you win the game, you're through, top the group, job done, see what the draw brings tomorrow. But we're going to have a work cut out. I think Albion Rovers, obviously they win at Annan, they had their moments against Dunfermline. I know that they lost a couple of late goals, and they had their moments against Dunfermline here in midweek, so we've got to be mindful of that. They've got a bit of pace up top, and playing on transitions, we've got to be ready for that, and it's something that we didn't deal with well enough the other night. So that side of it, if we can deal with their threats, hopefully we can enough of the ball to causing problems.
You're also balancing, trying to get through in the cup with your 1 week away from the league starting. How do you see the side or the squad in terms of preparation for that as you stand right now?
Yeah, I mean, ideally we would have liked to have won the game the other night, and which would have secured getting through, and then we could have maybe played a few more today, because there's a few in the squad who maybe not at the game time. We've tried to balance that. I said last week at Dunfermline, we're trying to win difficult cup ties, but conscious that you're still trying to get minutes into certain players. And last week we played Mayo and Finlay. We feel as though we've got to get these boys up to speed, particularly with the games coming up next week against Rangers. So, but we've still got to be mindful that it's not always your freshest team, but you still try to pick your best team to go and win a cup tie. And we've had the luxury in certain positions to be able to change it here and there. Kel McGuinness comes in, and he's been looking sharp through the pre-season work, and it's an opportunity for him. Marley Watkins comes in, another one who just signed last week, and we're conscious we need to get him up to speed, because Kel Vassell still had a wee issue with his thigh. So hopefully, as I say, we can get the balance right between treating the game the way it needs to be treated, and it's a cup tie, but also being mindful about trying to get the minutes in.
Derek McInnes there, the Kilmarnock manager, talking to Martin Dowden ahead of their game against Albion Rovers. Let's cross now to New Dundas Park. Bonnie Rig Rose welcome Airdrie, who have been going brilliantly in Group E. They are top of the group already and looking to secure their place in the last 16. Chick Young is there for us. Chick?
Alistair, I like Martin getting his excuses in earlier. They let me join the list. I have a position here. I am somewhat, maybe 5 feet from the corner flag. When the ball goes up there into the park, I have no idea if it's over the line in the 18-yard box. There's a bit of a slope up there as well. I was actually invited to the Lismore rafting and island sports this afternoon. I'm beginning to wonder if I've made the right decision coming to this game. It's an intriguing set of circumstances. It's the first time I've covered a game here at Bonnie Rig, actually, to be honest with you, although I have attended a function in a social club next door. Pitch is in great shape, but there is a huge slope away to my right up the corner there, a long way from where I sit. There's an optimistic start by Airdrie, sitting with a 100% record at the moment. And let me say, I quite fancy Airdrie to make a real impact in the championship this season. I saw a lot of them last year. A very talented group of players and a manager in Rhys McCabe, still playing, of course, who I think is really going places in the game. They play against Robbie Horn's Bonnie Rig Rose, who, of course, have no chance of getting out the group. This is all about what Airdrie do this afternoon. Good support through behind them to back it all the way. So I'll do my best to keep you updated with what's happening here at New Dundas Park, and indeed with the RAF race in Lismore if I possibly can. I'll rattle quickly through the teams for you. Bonnie Rig Rose have Patrick Martin in goal, Angus Mailer, Neil Martinuke, Kerr Young, Jason Jarvis, Lee Curry, Al Ufay, Josh Krieger, Rhys Peggy, Connor Doan and Smart Ostadola in their starting lineup. We'll leave the subs for the moment as Airdrie go with Josh Ray in goal, Cammy Ballantyne, Aaron Taylor Sinclair, Rhys McCabe, Callum Fordyce, Josh McConnor, Callum Gallagher, Nikolai Todorov, Craig Watson, Murray Aitken and Charlie Telfer, a couple of wise old players in that Airdrie side. Interesting game to follow this afternoon, and Airdrie chasing a 100% record in the qualification group.
And have you got the raft race teams?
Yes, there's the North Island and the South Island.
Thanks, Chick. Righty-ho, Chick, at Bonnie Rig Rose against Airdrie. And let's move into Group C. A couple of really big games in that. Let's first of all hear from Derek Ferguson, who's at Hamilton Accies, who currently sit first on 8 points. They play third place Cove, who still have, again, maybe an outside chance of securing qualification. Derek, can you talk us through what's going to happen there today?
I certainly can. Now, first of all, I'd like to wish you all the best today, having to look after us lot. I'll give you no excuses like the other two there, like Chick and Martin. What I can assure you, I'll be on my best behaviour, that's for sure. Yeah, it's an intriguing game, this one, as you rightly said there. Aki's sitting top, but if Cove get a win today, you know that they'll overtake them. They're going on to 9 points. You would think that Livy would take care of Clyde at home, which would see them on 10 points. So yeah, it's like kind of winner take all this afternoon, and both sides have made changes. They've had a good start, both of them beating Clyde and Brecon, but you look at the games against Livingston, certainly Hamilton last week getting a 1-1 draw, which will give them a lot of confidence, obviously winning the penalty kick, getting that extra point. But you wonder how on Tuesday night that drubbing that Cove suffered to Livingston 5-0, you know, so they'll come here. I was going to say not short in confidence, because the reason I'm saying this, I'm sure it was last season I watched a game here and it was Cove against Hamilton Accies, and Cove were cruising. I think they were 4-1 up. I think it was about 20 minutes to go, and somehow Hamilton come back to salvage a point. It was 4 each. It was a cracking game. I was sitting next to a certain Mr. Richard Gordon. I tell you what, he scrubs up well. I saw him this afternoon, suited and booted, looking very dapper. But one thing I think we're going to have today is two teams that are intent in attacking football. For Hamilton, there is one change. Oni comes in for Martin. So they go Hamilton Smith in goals. They go with a back four of Tumulty, Longridge, Kildare and Hendry. A midfield three of Oney, McDonald and Burjonas. And up top we go with Tate, O'Hara and Winter. On the bench is Lanes, Anata, Smith, Murray, McGlynn, McGinn, Owens, Newbury and Morgan. For Cove Rangers, from that 5-0 drubbing, they made 3 changes, one of them in goal. Suman comes in for Demas in goals. Also Jones and Burrow come in for Reynolds and Dards. So Cove go, I think they're going to go 3-4-3, so it'll be Suman in goals, a back three of Kerr, Gillingham and Jones, a midfield 4 of Burrow, Gallagher, Niang and Scully, with McGowan supporting Connell and Golding up top. On the bench for Cove is Demas, Naismith, Ochmansky, Dards, Vigers, Nikita, Gaffney and Reynolds. The referee here today is, let's have a little look at Stuart Luke here today. I tell you what, the sun has just come out. It's a beautiful afternoon. We know we're on this artificial surface with a few of those rain showers. It's looking slick, so looking forward to an exciting game. Al.
Good stuff, Derek. Thanks very much. Derek Ferguson there at Hamilton Accies against Cove Rangers, the 2 relegated sides from the Championship, of course, ahead of their League One season. But the other match in Group C, which could prove pivotal, is Livingston against Clyde. Livy in second, Clyde on no points at the foot of the table. Jane Lewis is there for us. Jane.
Afternoon to you, Al. Yeah, it's 2 wins and a draw for Livingston so far in this League Cup group stage of this competition. Clyde have lost all 3 of their ties, and I tell you what, I think they're really struggling with injury. They only named 3 players on their bench, including a player, Fraser Malcolm, who they brought in yesterday. They've made 4 changes. I'll go through them in a minute, but all 4 changes, none of them make the bench. I think that tells its own story. In terms of Livingston and their team news, well, Livy make 2 changes. Stephen Kelly is in for Scott Pittman. Pittman drops to the bench. Kelly no doubt rewarded for the 2 goals last time out. Joel Newbury, he's also on the bench. I'm told he has a bit of a knee niggle. He injured it in training yesterday. He is on the bench, so we could see him make an appearance at some stage, but Curtis Guthrie starts up front for Livy. 4 changes for Clyde, as I mentioned. 1 in goal, Jack Layfield comes in for Neil Parry, who's not on the bench, as I say. Also out are Raymond Grant, Connor Scullion and Ross Forbes. None of them are on the bench either. And in comes Eric Sulla, Liam Scullion and Ewan Cameron. They all come in. So Livingston will line up Shamel George in goal. A back 3 of Michael Devlin, Ayo Obolai and Tom Parks. 4 across the middle of the park. We think Christian Montano, Jason Holt, Andrew Shinney and James Penrice. Bruce Anderson and Stephen Kelly will play alongside, just behind a little bit from Curtis Guthrie, who will be the lone striker, if you like. On the bench is Hamilton, Brandon DeLucas, Nottingham Boys, Welsh Hayes, Sangari, Pittman and Newbury. In terms of Clyde, as I say, really struggling, I think, for injury. They make that change in goal. Neil Parry out, Jack Layfield will be in goal. Across the defence, it's Joss McCulloch, Logan Dunichi, Eric Sulla and John Craig. Barry Cuddy and Cameron Mulvaney are in the middle of the park, with Liam Scullion replacing his brother Connor, Ewan Cameron and Kyan Leslie, and Martin Rennie is up front. As I say, it's just Malcolm, who signed yesterday on the bench, Duncan and Peter Grant as well. The referee here is Willie Collum.
Thanks very much, Jane. And Jane has been speaking pre-match to the Livy manager, David Martindale. Let's hear what he had to say.
Well, David, a couple of changes for this one. Talk us through. Scott Kelly comes in for Scott Pittman. Is that because Kelly did well last time out, scoring the 2 goals?
To be fair, the 2 of them have been really good for me all pre-season, so I've been trying to watch the minutes. Wee Pitts is up there with the most minutes out of everybody, so you're trying to limit the minutes of some players, training loads, game loads. But Stephen Kelly came on Tuesday and scored 2 fantastic goals, so I think you've got to reward players sometimes when they come up with moments of brilliance in games. So he scored 2 goals and he was always going to play today. Scott was always going to come out today. So that's basically the rationale behind that one.
And the other change, Joe Nobley doesn't start. He's on the bench. Guthrie comes in for a start. What's the thinking there?
Nothing exciting, to be honest. Big Joel was in the team and he went over, hurt his knee slightly, extended his knee in the boxes yesterday. He thinks he'll be okay for 15, 20, 30 minutes if we need him. He's going to go and do the warm-up, see how he feels. But I think it was just a wee bit too much of a risk to start him today, so I'll be guided by Joel, to be fair. I'm a big believer in that if you don't train on a Friday, you're you're not going to start games of football on the Saturday, and that's kind of the message. But he would want to start. I know he wants to start, but I say to him, look, you okay with the bench, and we'll see how it goes. But I think he'll get through the warm-up. He looks to be moving well, and then we'll hopefully see him at some stage today. But I think it was much easier to maybe give him 15-20 minutes today if we needed a goal late on in the game and we were trying to win the game. But again, we'll see how the game goes, and I'll try and limit his game time, to be honest.
And what you think about the game? Obviously, the permutations are all over the place for many of the groups, but it's pretty simple for you guys. If you win, you should go through either, depending what happens with Aki's, either as top or second place, so that your eyes will be on the 3 points.
Listen, when you miss the seeding, so there's only 3 clubs get seeded, so when you miss the seeding, which was ultimately the main aim at the start of the campaign, so when you miss the seeding, it doesn't really matter if you finish first, third or the second best place runner-up. It's just about qualifying at that point. Win today and we're qualifying, really, that's all that really matters now, because we can't go through seeded.
Do you keep an eye on what's happening with Hamilton, or is that kind of out of the equation, really?
It doesn't really bother me, to be fair. Nah, it doesn't really bother me. So if we win the group, great. It doesn't mean there's nothing any different to qualifying as one of the second best place runners-up. I think the odds in us getting seeded are very, very, very small. So it's just about winning this game of football, take care of what's in front of us, and we should be in the heart for the next round.
Talk us through, obviously you brought some players in, but you've been quite vocal about how difficult you're finding it with finances. So I guess it's probably no real different from most seasons, but is this season any more tricky, or is it the same?
Yeah, the budget's kind of been cut by 200,000 in terms of the playing budget. So
that sounds like an awful lot of money.
It is an awful lot of money when you consider it. It's probably somewhere in the region of 15-16% of the overall budget. So it is a lot of money for a club this size. It's been difficult most seasons, but I found it a wee bit more difficult this season, I'm not going to lie. We've always got a couple of players that ideally wouldn't be here. We'd like to try and move them on, which frees up a space for someone else. I've been very vocal on the future of Livingston Football Club. If we want to remain a Premier League club, at some point we're going to have to attract new investment into the football club to give us a fighting chance. We only need one unlucky 6 months or a few injuries, form, a wee bit of bad recruitment, so to speak, and you could find yourself on the bottom of the table. So I don't make any bones about it. We're probably a championship team playing in the Premier League, so aye, it's going to be difficult, but do you know what? I trust the staff, I trust myself, and I trust the players I've got into the club. And I think it suits us going into the season being the underdog, and it's not been any different any other season.
Chance! And it's a goal! Oh, what a goal!
All the action from all the biggest games.
Oh, it's the second goal! This is Open All Mics from Sportsound.
From BBC Radio Scotland.
Yes, this is indeed Open All Mics with myself, Alistair Lamont, as the final weekend of the Viaplay League Cup gets underway. We've got reporters and pundits at 8 of the games today. We'll keep you across as much of the action as we can as the goals go in round the country. Interesting stuff there from David Martindale, actually. We'll maybe get a little bit of a chance to discuss some of what he was saying there. I am conscious that we have not yet managed to get team news from Dingwall. Michael Stewart is back with us. Mikey, can you bring us the team news now?
Well, hopefully, Al, if you can hear me in this broadcasting. There's 3 changes from the home side. In come Ross Laidlaw, Jan Danda and Victor Laturi. They'll line up with Ross Laidlaw and goals, James Brown, Jack Baldwin, Will Nightingale and George Harman. Then they'll have Connor Randall, Jan Danda, Victor Laturi and George Sims. And up top, Jordan White and Simon Murray. And for the away side, Kelty Hearts, there's one change. In comes captain Reece Lyons with Kyle Gourley in goals, Adam Corbett, Jason Thompson, Michael Sidzer and Billy Owens. Midfield of Phoebe Garamola, Reece Lyons, Lewis Moore, Stephen McCluskey, and up top Ross Cunningham and Craig Johnson.
Thanks, Mikey. Apologies to listeners. So the sound quality is obviously not great there, Mikey. Through no fault of his own, I have to stress having difficulties with the technology up there, but we will try and hopefully hear from him again, and hopefully the sound quality does improve. So most of the 3 o'clock kickoffs getting underway. We'll, as I say, keep you across all the goals as they go in. Leanne, I just wanted to touch, going back to Hibs, they're down playing a friendly in Blackpool today. I was kind of questioning the wisdom of the scheduling of that, but I'm just looking at the team. Very few of the players who played any minutes out in Andorra, less than 48 hours ago, actually involved today. You've got Elias Melkerson, who came off at half time, is involved. Diego came on, he's in the starting lineup. Mackay came on late on. One real positive note is that Martin Boyle starts that game, so Hibs fans will be desperate to see him back in a jersey in competitive action as soon as possible.
Yeah, no surprises that they've made the amount of changes that they have. I think it's at a point in the season as well, you've heard a lot of managers speak about getting minutes in the legs and looking to get certain players up to speed, and also erring on the side of caution when it comes to risks. But Martin Boyle is certainly one of those players that needs minutes. They want to get him up to speed, especially off the back of that poor result as well. So the quicker they can get competitive minutes in his legs, albeit today is a friendly, but whether it's 45 minutes he plays and then they'll look to build on that. Normally it's then up to 60 and so on, but he'll be a huge player for them, and ultimately Martin Boyle is a game changer regardless of at times performances or the players in and around him. I don't think at times you've watched Hibs necessarily playing well, but we have watched Hibs more often than not, and Martin Boyle's been the deciding factor within games. So a brilliant player to get back and a key player for Hibs.
Al, don't you think it was strange that he was on the bench on Thursday?
Well,
if he's not fit and available to play any minutes at all, or was he on the bench on the mindset if we're chasing the game we can put him on?
I don't think so.
No.
From what I could gather from what Lee Johnson was saying, he actually was quoted as saying he's there essentially as a cheerleader. He wants to be in and around the squad. I think he is quite a bubbly character, isn't he? So really, just from that point of view, I think Lee Johnson had him on the bench. Maybe he could have come on, but clearly, they were chasing the game, weren't they? They didn't introduce him, so you would have to imagine he wasn't quite ready. But he is starting the game today, so he might well be involved on Thursday at Easter Road. We'll have live coverage of that on BBC Scotland. Just to bring you up to date with a couple of the friendlies that are going on. Celtic are out in Dublin, as I mentioned earlier, playing against Wolves. Just into the start of the second half, they lead by a goal to Neil Kyogo on the score sheet, and any time I've glanced up to the screen, it's generally been Celtic on the attack. They look to be playing quite well out there. And Hoffenheim against Rangers is 1-0 to the German side. That's still in the first half out there. So again, we'll keep you across any goals that go in there. But let's go back to what David Martindale was saying there, Rory, assuming that you heard what he was talking about. I mean, David Martindale, generally speaking, he's come out in previous times talking about the fact that guarantee they won't be relegated and so on. That sounded like a David Martindale who's been a little bit more circumspect in his predictions for the season ahead.
Yeah, quite possibly. I think he's feeling the frustration of the transfer market, to be honest, with the season 1 week away. And I think that's possibly what's maybe eating him up a little bit. You'll probably hear a different David Martindale 3-4 weeks into the season, maybe when he's recruited a couple of others. It's often the way with transfer windows. You don't get your first 2, 3, 4, even 5th target, and then as the cycle kind of balances itself out and players are looking for clubs, then you can recruit a little bit more. So look, I've no doubt under David Martindale's stewardship Livingston will be okay in terms of relegation and things like that, but it'll hit a point in time where David Martindale will want resources and the opportunity to try and do a little bit more than just survive. He's done it previously, he's broken into the top 6, probably not had the budget to do so, but I think it's just frustration from him speaking at this point. He's probably spent weeks and weeks and weeks on the phone continuously, and when you don't see any fruits of your labour, I can imagine it's pretty disappointing and frustrating, and I think we're just hearing that coming out.
Leanne, they have continually, if you look at the budgets, they seem to be punching above their weight year in, year out, but naturally there might come a point where David Martindale just can't get any more out of his squad. Yeah,
it might be. We've seen that over the years. Hamilton Accies probably been one of those sides as well that punched above their weight and survived many years in the top flight, and ultimately that came crumbling down at some point. Livingston have managed to do the same, and they've got an identity at the club that I think the players that they recruit, by all accounts, understand what it's going to be like and what it's going to take. And Davy Martindale does a great job of bringing those types of characters into the club, working on a shoestring budget at times, and he's got the results. But you're right, I think it's only going to be so long, because I think we see it in the game now. Everybody's trying to probably do more, looking to try and invest. You see the European positions that are up for grabs as well in a season. It only takes clubs, probably a small part of the season to go on a really good run, and you can actually push yourself up into that top 6. So Livingston will have their work cut out, and
Kelly,
by all accounts 16% of your budget is quite significant.
Martin Dowden, you've got a goal?
I do. It's Kilmarnock in the lead. Albion Rovers 0, Kilmarnock 1. A free kick into the box from Danny Armstrong. In came Stuart Finlay, completely unchallenged from about 6 yards. He just poked the ball into the net. Kilmarnock very much on top early on. No surprise they've got that opener.
That's quite possibly the quietest interjection we've had in Open All Mics, Martin. Goal.
I was sort of expecting it coming, to be honest, given the balance of play. So it was that
might
shot.
need a bit more enthusiasm as the afternoon goes on, but it's only 7 minutes into the game. Okay.
So
just to keep us on our toes.
The first goal going in there, Albion Rovers 0, Kilmarnock 1, and Peterhead have gone ahead in Group B against Falkirk. It's O'Keefe who's on the score sheet for Peterhead. They've just got the 1 point so far at the bottom of Group B, and Falkirk in second going into the game. There's still some hopes of getting through the qualification stage, but at the moment at least that looks unlikely. The other game in that section is Partick Thistle against the Spartans, both sitting on 6 points just now, both looking to leapfrog Dundee United before the close of play. Thomas Duncan's at that one for us. Thomas, what's happening in the early stages at Firhill?
Not too much to report, I have to say, Al, but it's a very even game. Spartans looking good. They started the brighter, went away in a counter-attack, and a trip allowed them to put a free kick into the box, and Reece Armstrong whipped a really good ball into the back post, and Jordan Tappin on the stretch just couldn't get enough contact on it to guide it on target. And Partick Thistle have kind of grown into in the last couple of minutes. They've had a lot of possession in and around the Spartans box, but no breakthrough in the final third. But obviously that Peterhead goal helps. Well, either way, whoever wins here will go through, whatever Falkirk do, but it could be influential in the group regardless. But it's currently Partick Thistle 0, Spartans 0 here at Firhill.
Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, an interesting season ahead for Partick Thistle, Leanne, because, again, just touching on our coverage of the Championship, we saw them go so close to promotion, just missing out at the death against Ross County. But they have, they've lost a few players, particularly the likes of Tiffany, who's departed this season, but they brought players in as well. What do you expect from Chris Doolan's side in his first full season as manager?
Yeah, well, I think it will be interesting because the squad has been depleted from last season. It will come down to, again, recruitment. But I think there's consistency there, and Chris Doolan managed to do an unbelievable job in the time that he'd come in. So again, probably another one of those sides that I'm interested to see how pre-season goes, what type of form, if they'll look to try and play in the same type of style in which they did last season. All out attack at points it was in those playoff games. They were fantastic to watch, thoroughly enjoyed it. And there was part of me that was disappointed that side then does get blown apart. The likes of Kyle Turner leaving as well, who was impressive last season, and I'm not surprised that they drew attention. Docherty as well, and the captain, big players. So it's up to Chris Doolan to go and try and recruit, and as we were speaking about there with the likes of Livingston, it's never easy.
No, and Partick Thistle have got their own financial issues that they're having to deal with, of course, but such as the way of things across Scottish football, I guess, these days. Let's just bounce around a few of the grounds then, just to hear how things are going in the opening stages. Let's start with St Mirren against Forfar and Roy Loy.
Yes, indeed, Al. We've just had an absolute downpour of rain, so the pitch is absolutely soaked. In terms of the action on the pitch, there's not been much to shout about. In terms of St Mirren, you don't often see Stephen Robinson going away from his 3-5-2, but he's actually playing what is in effect a 3-4-3. He's got Bacchus and O'Hara just in front of his back three. He's got Strain and Tanzer in the wide areas, and then he's got three. I was actually speaking to Stephen Craigan before this, just trying to get a little bit more information on Conor McMenamin, who Craig says he's an out-and-out winger, and he is playing out on the right-hand side, which has meant that Nahame is playing on the left and it's Mandaron through the middle. In terms of the action, though, not much to speak about, but in terms of the shape, Stephen Robinson trying something a little bit different. It's not worked so far, but they do have their first corner of the match.
Nearly the opener out for Hamilton Accies. They've been a little bit sloppy up to this stage, but ball just fed into Oni, just in the edge of the box, cuts in, left foot. Thought it was just going to find that top right-hand corner, but only maybe I'd say a yard or two past the post. But it's been Cove that have been a little bit more dominant so far in this game, certainly with possession of the ball, certainly Golden and Burrow, holding the kind of wide areas, and more possession of the ball getting into McGowan just in the little holes. But just think at times Hamilton, though they've had that opportunity, that chance, just try to force it a little bit too much for me. O'Hara playing up top, and I try to find them every time they get possession of the ball in the midfield. I think they just got to just be a little bit more patient, a little bit more kind of methodical in their build-up. They might get a better outcome, but the first real opportunity falling to Hamilton.
Derek, the boy Oni, I really like him. Every time I've seen him, he's looked good. He's very young, but he's quite raw. Do you think the drop down in level? It's a goal for St Mirren, and it's Mandaron who gets it. It was a corner, whipped in. He just gets in at the front post. Ray McKinnon will be frustrated because it's come from a set piece. St Mirren haven't looked like breaking them down from open play, but it is St Mirren 1, 4-0, and it's Mikael Mandaron with the goal.
That was very timely, Rory, your interjection there, but Derek, I'll allow you to answer the question.
Yeah, I think the type of player that Oni is, he's got good abilities. Another opportunity for Hamilton. Falls to O'Hara. It's a goal. It's a great strike. O'Hara falling it in there. It's Barjonas. Ball just falls to major box. It's a terrific strike. Keeper too hot to handle. And O'Hara, typical centre forward. He's on the front foot, gets there ahead of the defenders, guides it into the back of the net. So Aki's going to the lead. And on Oni, I think he might find it actually more difficult dropping into League One rather than the Championship. I sometimes think guys with ability, I think they're better at a higher level, the type of player it is. Sometimes I think you go into that League One, it's a little bit more hurly-burly, a little bit more physical, but yeah, Rory's right, he's a talented boy, but he was in and out of the side last season, so nice to see him get a start, good opportunity, but yeah, and O'Hara, I was a little bit critical of Hamilton, saying that, they're a little bit too quick to force it and get the ball forward, but Barjonas, I know him pretty well, I watched him often enough as a youth at Rangers. He finds himself at Hamilton again, in his game time, and I think he's already shown this afternoon. He is a good player, but as soon as he gets sight of goals, he lets fly, and it was just too hot for the keeper to handle. So Hamilton off to a great start.
OK, Derek, those other goals have gone in. St Johnstone find themselves a goal down at home to Stirling Albion. It's not been an ideal start to the season for Stephen McLean at all, and that would be a hugely dispiriting defeat if they were unable to recover from that. Stirling Albion still have a chance of qualifying, it has to be said, under Darren Young, second place going into this last round of fixtures on 7 points, and they lead by a goal to nil. Derek told us about the Hamilton Accies goal there, and we know that Albion Rovers are a goal behind to Kilmarnock, but Annan are a goal down to Raith Rovers. It was Watson who scored in that one. Rory brought us the St Mirren goal through Mikael Mandaron, and just spinning through some of the other goals that have gone in. Arbroath are a goal up on Montrose. That one's a relatively meaningless one. Neither side can qualify in that one, so plenty of early goals going in. Just seen a full time coming through from Charlton against Aberdeen. That finished Charlton 2, Aberdeen 3 in a pre-season friendly, and Hoffenheim have gone 2-0 up against Rangers also in a pre-season friendly. Celtic still at 1-0 against Wolves. So plenty of action and plenty of goals in the early stages. Stephen Craigan, none yet at Fir Park between Motherwell and East Fife.
No, but I've got to say, Alistair, it's been quite an open game, because the concerns ahead of this game for East Fife were probably people thinking from the outside, would they come and sit in and try and play in the counter-attack and be difficult to play against, but they're quite open. They're 4-3-3 They actually had the best chance after 6 or 7 minutes. Great play down the right-hand side by Gregor Nicol, and just when it looked like the opposite wide player, Jack Keeley, was about to tap it into the net, Paul McGinn managed to get a last-ditch block and put it over the crossbar. But touching on Paul McGinn, he should have scored a couple of minutes ago. Great free kick from the right-hand side from Blair Spittle. Free header at the back post, headed it into the ground. Good save by Alan Fleming. Motherwell starting to dominate the game a little bit more. However, when East Fife win it, they're quite prepared to get men forward. So it is 0-0, but it's a decent watch.
There's been a goal in Dingwall. Michael Stewart.
Yeah, an absolutely fantastic goal from Josh Sims to put Ross County 1-0 up. They've dominated the game, truth be told. They've playing very good, the two full-backs, Harman and Brown, getting right up high and putting lots of balls into the box. But this time, Josh Sims just cutting in from the left-hand side on the edge of the box, fired it, lasered it into the far corner and left Kyle Gourley no chance to put Ross County 1-0 up.
Yeah, and really looking good to qualify now, Malky Mackay's side. So Ross County 1, Kelty 0. That would, of course, eliminate Kelty if things stay that way. Now let's bounce around a few of the other games. Who haven't we heard from? Chick Young, we haven't heard too much from you. Bonnyrigg Rose against Airdrie. How are things going in the opening quarter of an hour?
Well, it's Bonnyrigg 0, Airdrie 0 at the moment. Actually, Bonnyrigg starting the game
it's a
very
goal.
well.
It's 2-0 to St Mirren. And it's Mikel Mandaron again, and I have to say, Ryan Strain in the build-up, absolutely fantastic. He took the ball bounced up, he flicked it over Finn Robson's head with the outside of his boot, he ran forward, hit the byline, cut it right across the goal, and there was Mikel Mandaron to get his second of the match and make it St Mirren 2, 4-0.
Check, I'm sure you won't be too put out of being interrupted for that.
Absolutely, stop the traffic for that information, Alistair. It's 0-0 here. Here's a chance for Airdrie though. Actually, Bonnyrigg started well. There was actually a yellow card within the first minute or so for Charlie Telfer at Airdrie, and there was a real chance for Smart Osadollar to put the ball in. A real confusion at the back for Airdrie. The hesitancy was there, and had a chance did Osadollar to get Bonnyrigg Rose ahead. There's also been bad news for Airdrie in the injury front. Nikolai Todorov's had to go off. Dean McMaster has replaced him. So hopefully a sunny day and a perfect playing surface actually. The teams with plastic pitches could learn from Bonnyrigg Rose. Lush and green and lovely. Still 0-0.
Thanks, Chick. Leanne, we know that goal scorers are worth their weight in goal, and it already looks like Mikel Mandaron could be a good signing for Stephen Robinson's side.
Yeah, looks like it. Obviously he was at Motherwell last season as well, and was I overly surprised that he left for Park? Probably not. But having said that, sometimes again it's about the environment. He looks like he's settled pretty well, and I mentioned it earlier on. Sorry, I've just nearly knocked my mic over there. Goals win you games, and it's absolutely huge. And Stephen Robinson, he'll be looking at a lot of clubs at this stage of the season as well, and looking back to the pressure that he found himself under at this stage last season, and he'll be delighted that they found the form and they went on to have the season that they did, and they've clearly continued that in pre-season as well. But it's all down to recruitment, and Stephen Robinson's got a good thing going there at St Mirren as well. There's a good consistency among the squad, and at times just when you bring in those 2 or 3 additions, they settle quite quickly and hit the ground running.
Alistair, do you know what? Every time I speak to Stephen's a friend of mine, he always says he's no money and his budget's being cut. And then every second day he's bringing a player in. And I keep texting, well, I'm wheeling and dealing and moving him on and moving him about. So St Mirren will be fine, they'll be well organised, and clearly having that goal scorer or goal scorers makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like a grumpy manager, Stephen. I think that's a good thing when they mump all the time.
Just missing out on Europe.
Has turned into Messi here, Al, because he's picked up the ball in the number 10 position on the half turn. He's skipped by 2 players, and he's released a left foot shot just past the post after run half the length of the pitch with a flick over Robson's head to set up Mandarin before he goes very close to adding a third, but it remains 2-0.
Yeah, Ryan Strain was a player who was linked, certainly in some of the newspapers, with potential moves away, but still at St Mirren, and Stephen Robinson will be very, very keen to ensure that stays away until the end of the transfer window. Now, Jane Lewis, we've not heard from you in the opening stages between Livingston and Clyde. Anything much happening there?
No, you've not heard from me, Al, for very good reason. There's not an awful lot happening. Listen, Livingston have got plenty of the ball, plenty of possession. That they're certainly very comfortable and they're on top, but they're just doing nothing with it. They've had a couple of chances in terms of free kicks and corners, but they've come to nothing. They've been easily saved. Stephen Kelly, who of course has been good form, 2 goals in the last round of this group competition. He's in the team. He's had a long-range effort, but again, it was easily saved. Clyde, no real threat on goal. They've rarely had the ball, to be honest, and when they have done, they've either given up the possession fairly easily, or on any kind of shots on goal have been fairly tame and pretty easily saved by Shamal George. So yeah, nothing to talk of here really. I was about to say that David Martindale was quite calm on the sidelines. I've just turned round and he's giving someone an absolute mouthful. He won't be happy that they've not got on the score sheet yet, because they have had plenty of the ball, and as I say, they've had 1 or 2 opportunities too from set plays.
Thanks, Jane. Let me just try and run you through the scores as they stand in as we approach the halfway point in the first period in all of today's games. Ayr United have just gone ahead at home to Alloa Athletic. That was Fraser Bryden who got that one, and that puts them firmly in top spot there in Group A. St Johnstone, as I mentioned earlier on, a goal down at home to Stirling Albion. Neither of those, St Johnstone can't qualify, Stirling can, and would very much be in contention to go through as one of the best runners up by moving on to 10 points. In fact, that would be pretty much guaranteed if they can hold on for the victory. It's in Group B, Falkirk 0, Peterhead 1. O'Keefe with the early goal there. 0-0 in the other game in that group between Partick Thistle and the Spartans. In Group C, Derek Ferguson has brought us a Kevin O'Hara goal for Hamilton Accies against Cove Rangers in that one. And the other game, as Jane has just told us, is 0-0 between Livingston and Clyde. In Group D, it's 0-0 between Morton and Edinburgh City. Morton can still go through. They're in second place at the start of play, and Michael was telling us that Josh Sims got the early goal for Ross County. 1-0 they lead Kelty Hearts, and looking good for qualification as well. 0-0 between Bonnyrigg Rose and Airdrie. Airdrie topping Group E. That's the only game in Group E. Remember, Dundee and Inverness Cally Thistle play tomorrow. That's a game we'll be covering live here on Sportsound, with Dundee almost certainly still in with a chance of qualifying as one of the best runners up. Group F, it's Albion Rovers 0, Kilmarnock 1. Stuart Finlay on the score sheet early doors at Clifton Hill. And Annan Athletic 0, Wraith Rovers 1 in the other game in Group F. That was Keith Watson on the score sheet. Stephen Craigan told us that in Group G it's still Motherwell 0, East Fife 0, and the same goes for the game between Queen's Park and Queen of the South at the midway point in the first half. Neither of those teams can make any impression on the closing stages. And goals in Group H as Arbroath leads Montrose by a 0-0 in a dead rubber. Macintosh on the score sheet there, and a Mikael Mandron double has given St Mirren early command of that game against Forfar. Ray McKinnon's side have been going so well. 3 wins from 3 against Cowdenbeath, Montrose and Arbroath, but it looks like they've come up against just a different class of opposition so far this afternoon in Stephen Robinson's side, as they look good to take on top spot from Forfar. Now let's try and cross to the Global Energy Stadium then. Michael Stewart is there for us. We know he's been having difficulties with the sound, but Michael, how are things going in the opening stages there?
Well, it's just a continuation of Ross County in the ascendancy. They're dominating the game. They've been having loads of possession, and they've been working it really well, side to side, keeping the ball, and they've been pulling Kelty Hearts apart a little bit. There was a bit of difficulty, the way that County are lining up. They're two, what you would regard as their wide men, Sims and Dander, playing very narrow, and the Kelty Hearts midfield are just being outnumbered. They're not really been able to get a foothold in the game at all. So Malcolm Mackay will be happy with how things are going, especially on the back of obviously the 3 victories already in this group. But I was just going to touch on the whole St Mirren thing, and Rory talked about Ryan Strain. By the way, he's a very, very good player, and I find it bizarre, obviously he's an Australian international. Maybe if he was playing in the A-League he'd get a better chance of moving to some of the top flight teams in Scotland. Some bizarre transfer policies and recruitment, I think, from some of the big clubs in Scotland, ignoring players that are on their doorstep and looking to far-flung lands to try and find unhidden gems when there's 1 or 2 actually that are on their doorstep.
Yeah, I mean, I know Div McDonald of Pie and Bovril was on their podcast as the guys were previewing the season, and he couldn't believe that Ryan Strain was a St Mirren player, such as the quality he brings. Just where we've got you, Michael, on the sounding pretty decent. In terms of Ross County, who you're watching just now, I discussed with Leanne earlier on about their recruitment and Malcolm
Sensible.
Mackay having to do less work.
But also, sorry, I'll interrupt you there, but sensible work. It's good work. It feeds into the point I'm making. Scott Allardyce, Kyle Turner, Jay Henderson, guys that obviously who know they're from Scotland, they know the league. Well, Allardyce and Henderson, not a long journey for them coming to Inverness. James Brown so far has looked like a good addition as well at right back. But these are sensible signings. They're guys that, as I've just been saying, they are easy additions. You don't have to really give them a huge amount of time to settle in. There's less risk and gamble with these players. And, for me, there are many others up and down the land at clubs who, some of the bigger clubs in the country could be following suit likewise and bringing players in domestically who would make their teams better. But I think there's too many people involved at clubs that try to justify their own positions by making it out as if they're the only ones that have got contacts in some foreign land, and they ignore the domestic market, and I think that's to the detriment.
So from County's perspective, are you expecting them to have a better season?
Well, I mean, the difficulty for County is that you see obviously the season that they had, not previous but the one before getting in the top six, they were coming in into a little gap because there was a number of the bigger clubs who had very, very poor seasons. Whether they're going to be able to replicate that, I think is extremely difficult. But are they going to be able to avoid being dragged into a relegation fight? I think from what we've seen so far, they've got a better squad this season than last. And as I said, I think there's been some sensible, good additions made to it. So they're in a better position now than they were last season, that's for sure.
Let's cross to Derek Ferguson, who's watching Hamilton against Cove. Of course, those two teams went down from the Championship. Would you expect those two to be right up at the top, challenging to get back in to the Championship at the first time of asking this season, Derek?
Well, certainly looking at Aki's, certainly at the back. I think last season they lacked a little bit of experience. I think they needed a few of the older heads. As we know, Aki's predominantly always go with the youth, they're always given their chance, but I think when you're in the Championship, as we all know, it's a tough league. I think you also need to add a little bit more experience, and I think they've done that. I think John has certainly done that. You look at the back four, they've got Hendry in there, they've got Tumulty, Kildare as well, so there's good experience. Even McDonald in the middle of the park, Cove, and on this show this afternoon, Cove, they're a nice football side, but I think they lack up top, to be honest with you. As I say, I'm making the comparisons with Accies this afternoon, just been forcing a little bit too much for my liking at times, but they look dangerous. And in fact, I didn't want to come in a couple of times. Oni could have had himself on the score sheet. Had a wonderful chance. It was actually Winters, who's just been booked, by the way, Al. It's a ridiculous booking. It was actually Cover breaking, and it's Burrow. He's breaking through the middle, and it's Andy Winters who provided that cross to Oni. It is brilliant tracking back. He's shoulder to shoulder. He basically out muscles Burrow. He goes down, and the referee deems it a yellow card. I don't see. And the referee, Stuart Luke. I don't know much about Stuart Luke, but I think it was clear to see from everyone, even on the ground. It was just a great appetite, from a forward player to get back and defend and out muscle a player, and he picks up a yellow card. But yeah, talking about the chances, coming back up. Aki's a little bit more experience. Yeah, you would fancy them.
Yep, Annan have equalised at home to Wraith Rovers. Are bringing the goal scorer when I get it. Just on the Cove Rangers front, Leanne, they've taken the decision, having gone down from the Championship, to go full time, which is an interesting one, but it very much sets their stall out in the sense that they are very much believing that they'll be going back up.
Yeah, it does, and that's probably pleasing for everybody associated with the club and fans included in that. A real disappointment last season. Again, questionable decisions at certain points in the season, probably quick decisions and regrettable decisions that ultimately cost them their place in the division. But the fact that they have looked at things and reviewed the situation, other teams might have just stayed as they were and looked to try and do what they did in the previous season and gain promotion in the position that they found themselves. But the fact they're looking to invest a bit more, really stabilise the club, drive it forward and look to regain promotion, you would expect big things from Cove Rangers this season. But as we know in football, there's no guarantees, regardless of the budget or how much investment that you put, that you get these things right.
Absolutely not. And again, League One, like the Championship,
very difficult.
Yeah, extremely difficult to get out. So many big teams, or big clubs, if you like, in there. Falkirk being one of them. They've levelled things actually against Peterhead. It's 1-1 at the Falkirk Stadium. It's Tom Lang who is on the score sheet for Falkirk. Still waiting on that Annan scorer coming through, but
also, Al, sorry, what you have in League One is a lot of players that drop down divisions to remain part-time and could actually be playing in leagues up above, but for whatever reasons, work commitments and family commitments, that they make that decision. So it is of course a really tough league, and Cove Rangers know that only too well.
And you think about it, Leanne, I think the part-timers, they're a different animal in this day and age.
Yeah.
They're fitter, going back. I mean, I'm going back 10 years, a little bit longer than that, when I was part-time, and and the guys had hard jobs. They still kept themselves in good nick, but even in this day and age, I think even the part-timers, they're phenomenal in terms of their fitness. They really look after themselves away from the game, because financially the rewards are there. You look at Arbroath, that have been absolutely brilliant. You look at how a part-time team, can survive in that Championship and do ever so well. But also the other thing, I think if you are a full-time side in this League One, I think you become a bit of a target as well. The guys they'll enjoy going up against you, maybe proving that, because you would imagine the full-time teams are going to run away with it, half an hour to go, fitness-wise. It's not always the case.
Derek, I'm going to come in there because Michael Stewart's got another goal to bring us. Well, let's hear from Stephen Craigan first.
Yeah, I tell you what, Motherwell almost went behind Alistair. It was a great in-swinging free kick from Gregor Nicola again. Lovely left foot he's got. Motherwell couldn't get it cleared. It bounced about with a couple of strikes, a couple of deflections. Suddenly, on the counter-attack from that move, the ball went to Harry Payton, who was up as the centre forward. He won a flick, well supported by Callum Slattery. Lovely first touch. A young Lennon Miller ran from the middle of the 18-yard box to get up and support. Even through one-on-one, he hesitated, he wasn't sure, and he had a lovely strike with his left foot off the left-hand side into the Tommy McLean stand. Motherwell are shooting, and it's 1-0 to the home side.
Excellent stuff from Lennon Miller, a young man who looks like he's got a very, very bright future. We'll come back to you maybe and talk about him in more detail once we've heard from Mikey and Dingwall.
Yeah, it's 2-0 to Ross County. It was Simon Murray with the goal. Just a ball up to Jordan White. Simon Murray just let it go over his head. He spun round to try to get the flick on from Jordan White. It was good link up. Just played it into Murray's path and doubled their lead. And as I said earlier on, they've been in the ascendancy for pretty much most of the game, and that has just been emphasised there by that goal to make it 2-0. Comfortable this afternoon so far.
Simon Murray starting the season on fire, isn't he? That's 6 goals in his opening 4 games, a hat-trick against Stranraer in the opening tie, and then a goal in both the win over Morton and indeed against Edinburgh City as well, and another to put them right in the driving seat against Kelty Hearts in the first half this afternoon. So
Alistair, Livingston, sorry to interrupt you. Livingston have a couple of really good chances here. I would imagine David Martindale with a very, very frustrated figure watching down there, because they've had so much possession. They had a really good chance just a few minutes ago. They had a free kick in a really dangerous area, just on the edge of the D, just to the left-hand side of it, after Bruce Anderson was brought down. Stephen Kelly it was who stood up to take the free kick. He's normally pretty lethal from that kind of distance, and he blazed well over the bar just a couple of minutes ago. Cristiano Montano as well had a really good effort too. He also blazed over after some really good build-up play involving Guthrie, who of course is playing up top in replace of Nibley, who's just got that slight knee injury. That's why he's on the bench. But yeah, some good chances for Livingston, and as I say, I would imagine David Martindale will be pretty frustrated that his team just cannot take advantage of this massive possession of the ball that they've got here. Massive possession of play.
Thanks, Jane. Michael, you've got another goal.
I have indeed. It was just a quick fire response from Kelty Hearts this time. It was completely grounds on the plate, not really been any action up that other end. But you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong here. I think it was Ross Cunningham that's put the ball in the back of the net. It was in the inside of the box, probably about 10 yards out on the angle, and with the left foot he manages to stick it past Ross Laidlaw and make it 2-1.
Yeah, we've not got the goal scorer come through just yet, Mikey, but we'll keep an eye on that one.
Fantastic chance here at Firhill for Spartans. Or it wasn't really a chance, it was a half chance. Jamie Dishington was played in, he was about 30 yards out, left hand side in line with the box, and he just spotted David Mitchell off his line and thought, I'll have a go at this. He went for the chip, it came off the bar, then bounced for Blair Henderson, who had a tap in, or at least he thought he had a tap in, only for Harry Milne to come in with an incredible block at the last minute to prevent Spartans from taking the lead. Really good game here. Partick Thistle playing some lovely stuff without enough cutting edge. Spartans look really dangerous on the counter-attack, but it's still goalless here at Firhill after 37 minutes.
Goal for
I was going to say
goal for Park Al. Yeah, it came from the home side again. You can probably tell by the noise in the background. It was really good play by Motherwell with regards pressing. They forced the East Fife into trying to roll the ball into midfield, and Motherwell have actually got 4 centre midfield players playing. There's a responsibility on Blair Spell or Harry Payton to be the second striker. Harry Payton cuts the ball out into midfield, plays it straight into Connor Wilkinson. Lennon Miller again made another lovely run on the left hand side. Wilkinson's probably 25 yards from goal. The easy option, or the safe option, would have been to play Lennon Miller in, but he's a man looking for a goal. He wants off the mark. It's a lovely strike with his left foot. Alan Fleming couldn't get anywhere near into his bottom left hand corner. He's got his first goal of the season, and I think Motherwell have taken a huge step into winning this group this afternoon. 2-0 to the home side.
So, sorry, Craigs, who are you giving that second one to?
Connor Wilkinson.
That's Wilkinson, because I'm just looking on our website. It's got Slattery as the first goal scorer. You didn't tell me that
no,
Miller?
It was Lennon Miller with the first goal, right, and it was Connor Wilkinson with the second goal.
Okay,
Absolutely.
well, I shall certainly take your word for it. Now, there's been another goal in Perth, and incredibly, Stirling Albion are 2-0 up away to St Johnstone. It's Milne who has got the second goal there. So, as things stand, Stephen McLean's side are going to finish with 3 points, having been beaten by Ayr and Stennismuir and beating Alloa by 4-0. But another defeat on the cards. Stuart Cosgrove was telling me earlier on that they've bossed every single game they've been in, but Leanne, that is by far not acceptable in terms of results.
No, it's a poor result, and it will certainly put Stephen McLean under a fair bit of pressure, I would imagine, finishing the group in the position that they find themselves. Albeit I don't think he'll be too concerned if his side get up to speed by the time the Premiership starts next week. But a poor run of games. I know they were finding it difficult, St Johnstone, again, in terms of recruitment and bolstering the squad and looking to try and get some key players in. But fans and people on the outside will only look at results, and this far for St Johnstone it doesn't look good.
I mean, St Johnstone in the end comfortably steer clear of the relegation zone, Rory, but would you, if you were a Saintie, be concerned about the way they've started the season?
Yes, I mean, I think if you're losing 3 games to lower league clubs, there's got to be an area of concern there. I know St Mirren had a poor run at it last year in the League Cup and then went on to have a fantastic season, so it's not, it's not beyond all possibility that they go on and have a good season. And I'm sure Stephen McLean, newly appointed, will get some time there. But what I would say is it's unwanted attention and unwanted pressure that was avoidable because they should be beating these teams. So I just think it's a bit of attention there that it's the last thing Stephen McLean would have wanted going into the first league game of the season, because every mistake, every pass will be scrutinised even more than it would have been had they gone through against these sides.
Just to go back to the Ross County Kelty goal scorer, the Kelty scorer has been given, I think, is it Stefan McCluskey, who I've seen it accredited to here.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. Al. Looks like McCluskey for the goal.
And Morton have gone 1 up on Edinburgh City. Kirk Broadfoot on the score sheet.
Penalty kick to St Mirren, and it's Keanu Bacchus who wins it. He drives into the box. It's one of those ones where the defender is poleaxed by him, but is deemed to have blocked him running forward. The defender was Adam Hutchinson, maybe a little bit harsh, but probably the right decision in the end. And it'll be interesting to see who takes it. Mikael Mandaron wants it. Mark O'Hara as the captain and the penalty taker, converted I think all of his penalties last season, so he will be keen to take it. Yeah, he's going to pull rank here, and it will be Mark O'Hara that takes it. Just a quick word on Forfar while I'm waiting for that, because it's only fair to point out you were running through the scores at the time. They actually had a couple of chances back to back. Josh Skelly with a free kick, which was well parried from the goalkeeper Zach Hemming.
Goal, Kilmarnock.
Yeah, go for it, Martin.
It's a second goal for Kilmarnock. It was a set piece at a short corner. They worked it reasonably well. All the big guys were still up the park. The ball was thrown into the box. I'm actually not sure who got the final touch on it. It was a ball in from the wide from Robbie Dees. But it is Kilmarnock 2-0 up.
Thanks, man. We'll come back to you for the goal scorer. So O'Hara converting, Rory?
He did, very coolly. Set the keeper the wrong way. Mikel Mandarin is out of his huff. He went up and congratulated his captain. And St Mirren are on easy street now. 4-4, like I said, they had another chance through Seb Ross after a poor throw-in from Richard Taylor, but he fluffed his lines. Chances few and far between for 4-4. St Mirren go in at half-time, well, not half-time just yet, but looking like they're going to go in 3-0 up and very comfortable.
Rory, as a former striker, you'd have been in the huff as well if you hadn't had a chance to get your hat-trick.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think I would have probably tried a bit harder than he just kind of accepted it, but there you go. Especially if I hadn't scored 2 goals.
Well, he's got another 45 minutes or so to get that hat-trick. Leon, I was just going to say, Mark O'Hara was excellent last season, and maybe, St Mirren fans won't thank me for this, but maybe another player that you might have expected some interest in this summer?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. He had a really good season, really strong season. We spoke an awful lot about it on Open All Mics and Sportsounds every other Saturday. Whether the captaincy looked to have played a big role as well in his performances. He really took that on board, really embraced the leadership element of the performances and the demands at the club. And now for Mark O'Hara, it's about backing that season up that he had and the consistency levels that he showed, the goals from midfield as well, because he was a big player. And ultimately St Mirren will need him again this season to produce the same. But you're right, Mike was talking about other clubs within the country that perhaps overlook players that are under their nose and performing week in, week out. Mark O'Hara last season was one of those players, no doubt.
I think he'd signed a 3-year deal though, so it would have cost clubs a few quid. Sure. Hence the reason why St Mirren moved.
I think Stephen Robinson said he would basically command a record fee. Did he not? Was it not O'Hara he was saying that about if a club wanted to come and take him away?
Well, it would make sense. He's your captain, he's your best player, he's your most influential player on your team. Then it would make sense for to ask for the record bid. But you can only do that when you've got a 3-year contract to back it up. So it was a very good move by St Mirren. I've got to say, there's been a sending off in this game at Fir Park. There's hardly been a bad tackle in the game. I'm not too sure what it was for. Shane Blaney, I think, was rubbing his face, but I've no idea who's been sent off because all the players are congregating around the referee. It's actually Jonathan Page, the captain, former Motherwell player.
So it is, yeah.
He's been involved in something somewhere along the line. And to be fair, I know Jonathan, I played with him here at Motherwell, a placid guy, so whatever's happened, it's clearly pushed his buttons and he's now walking off the pitch. He's 5 down to 10 men and trailing by 2 goals.
Yeah, that's not going to help their cause at all. Chick, you wouldn't have welcomed that speculation I was introducing there about Mark O'Hara. Are you confident he will be a buddy by the close of the transfer window?
I'm just listening to you lot trying to flog all St Mirren's players around the country. I mean, what is it? It's some kind of marketplace they're running here.
It's a sign that they're doing well, though, isn't it?
Well, is that a way of getting around it? I mean, St Mirren are becoming, given the last couple of seasons, I'm not saying they're one of the biggest clubs in the country, but clearly they're growing in stature. They've the top 6 place last year, and you have to say that the manager is a wise owl. I think he's handled it very well. Dave, thank you very much. Right on cue.
It's a deep ball. It's a corner to the back stick. Scott Tanzer, not the biggest. It's poor defending from Forfar, I must say. Heads it back across the 6-yard box, and Alex Gogic is there to put the ball into the net from point blank range to make it 4-0 to St Mirren. Just on the Mark O'Hara one as well, he's a player I played with who I know, who actually I caught up with him at a game not long after he signed his 3-year contract, and he was saying to me that he'd been down in Peterborough, he'd been at Dundee, he's been at Motherwell. I think he's quite happy where he is, and I think
a goal that sorry Rory, what a goal this is. It's a brilliant goal for Cove Rangers. It's Mark Gallagher. It took me by surprise. He picks it up away on the left hand side. He must be about 30-35 yards out. He's allowed to lift his head. He has a little look and he has a pop and he pushes it right to the top left hand corner. Absolute, and it's not a pile driver. He picks his spot, so he's got whip on it, but he's got plenty of pace, and for all Aki's good play, they've had numerous chances as well in the second half, but what a goal to get the leveller. Absolutely brilliant from Mark Gallagher. Brilliant stuff.
Half time at Firhill, Al. It's Partick Thistle 0, Spartans 0.
Thanks, Thomas.
Just to go back, Albion Rovers 0, Kilmarnock 2.
Yeah, I think that second Kelly goal was given to Marley Watkins. Dowders, does that sound right?
Yeah, Marley Watkins is the general consensus. It was recycled, as I said, from the opposite side. Robbie Dees floated it in. There were a few bodies in there. It looked as though it might have actually been an own goal, but it was Watkins that seemed to get that final touch. 2-0 Kelly.
It's half-time in Paisley as well. 4-0 St Mirren.
4-0 emphatic half-time lead. I don't think I gave this. Annan got a second
Half-time
goal.
here, Al, 0-0 between Livingston and Clyde.
Thanks, Jane. We'll hear more about that just shortly. Annan, though, 2-1 up on Wraith Rovers. They've turned that round. It's Louisant who has got the second goal to make it Annan 2, Wraith Rovers 1. And
Alistair, I will take the exciting news is I've also got half time to give you the results of the Lismore raft race.
Well, just keep the listeners on tenterhooks for the moment, Chick. If you don't mind, as we'll come to you at half time as the whistles begin to blow around the country, and we'll get a full wrap of all the games that we're covering. But loads of goals going in, Leanne. It's been an interesting, exciting first half, and hopefully at half time I can try and start working out who's looking good and who's looking like they're heading out of all these groups.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the guys will be relieved that are out at games that they're almost looking guaranteed, even at half time, that there won't be the penalty shootout and the bonus points and too many permutations to try and navigate through. And I'm not pointing elbows at Chick Young at all.
No, Chick's
not penalties.
No, exactly.
No, we don't like penalty shootouts.
0-0 it stands.
I don't like penalties.
Not from the position in the game that you've described that you're sat at today. Anyway, I could only imagine, unless it was the goalmouth right in front of you.
Yeah.
Borryrigg 0, Airdrie 0 as half-time is almost upon us round the country. So plenty of goals.
It's half-time now, Al.
Thanks, Chick. All the games coming to the 45-minute mark round the country. Ayr United leading by 2-0 against Alloa.
Full-time, half-time for Park Al. Motherwell 2, East 5-0.
Thanks, Trags. And
half-time out, Hamilton Accies 1, Cove Rangers 1.
Thanks, Derek. East Fife down to 10 men, as Stephen was telling us about just before half-time. So looking very much like Motherwell are good to go in terms of going through in that one. Ross County still playing in Dingwall. How's that one shaping up, Michael?
Obviously just approaching half-time and injury time here, and we're still 2-1. Kelty have been better towards the end of this second half with once they got the goal to get themselves back into the game here. It's been a wee bit more of an even contest, but Ross County deserving to be in front as we approach half-time here, and I'm just waiting for Stephen McLean to blow his whistle. I don't think it will be too long. And there you go, on cue. Half-time here in Dingwall. 2-1 to Ross County.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. Just to quickly tell you about a couple of goals that have gone in friendlies. Wolves have got an equaliser late on against Celtic in Dublin. 1-1. That stands. It's 2-1 now to Hoffenheim. Rangers have got a goal back in that friendly around about the hour mark. You're listening to Open All Mics. That's the first half concludes.
The Scottish League Cup.
This is the chance they've been waiting for. Cross-court come must be it.
Live on Sportsound from BBC Radio Scotland.
Welcome back to Sportsound, Open All Mics, with myself, Alistair Lamont, this afternoon, trying to keep my head round all the permutations of the League Cup as it comes to a close in terms of the group stage. And we're at the halfway point of today's 3 o'clock kickoff. So let me run you through how things stand at the halfway point in each of the groups. Group A, it's Ayr United 2, Alloa 0, and St Johnstone 0, Stirling Albion 2. Stirling Albion looking good for qualification as one of the best group runners-up in that one. In Group B, Falkirk have taken a late lead in the first half, actually. It's 2-1 to Falkirk now, and so they lead again against Peterhead. 2-1 to the home side in that one, and goalless. We'll hear more from Thomas Duncan shortly between Partick Thistle and the Spartans. Group C, Hamilton Accies 1, Cove Rangers 1, late equaliser in that one for Cove, and Livy 0, Clyde 0 in the other game in Group C. In Group D, Morton 1, Edinburgh City 0, and Ross County 2, Kelty Hearts 1. Group E, only one game in that one. It's Bonnyrigg Rose 0, Airdrie 0. Chick will give us the details of that. The other game in that group takes place tomorrow between Dundee and Inverness Cally Thistle. Live coverage of that on Sportsound. Join us for that one tomorrow, with Dundee still in with a chance of qualifying. Group F, Albion Rovers 0, Kilmarnock 2. Kilmarnock looking good for qualification. And Annan Athletic 2, Wraith Rovers 1. That would put a real dampener on Wraith's hopes of getting through to the knockout phase. Group G, Motherwell 2, East Fife 0. East Fife down to 10 men in that one after Jonathan Page's sending off. Queen's Park 0, Queen of the South 0. And in Group H, it's Arbroath 1, Montrose 0. That one's a dead rubber. And St Mirren looking like they're going to very much overhaul Forfar's lead at the top of that group. They lead by 4 goals to 0. And we can hear all about the first half in that match from Rory Loy.
Yes, indeed, Al. It's easy street for St Mirren at half-time. Stephen Robinson will be absolutely delighted. Only took 13 minutes to get on the score sheet, and it was Mikel Mandron with a firm header into the back of the net from a corner about 6 yards out. He doubled his and St Mirren's lead on the 17th minute when Ryan Strain flicked a ball over Finn Robson's head around the halfway line, drove forward to the touchline, cut it back, and there was Mikel Mandron to say thank you very much and tap the ball into what was an empty net to make it 2-0 to St Mirren. On 20 minutes, Ryan Strain, the best player of the first half in my opinion, picked the ball up in the number 10 position on the half turn and fired a low shot just wide of the goals. Forfar did have a couple of chances on the 21st and 28th minute. The first coming through Josh Skelly after he was fouled by Alex Gogic. His free kick was parried away by Hemming. On 28th minute, a Richard Taylor throw-in was overshot by quite some distance, which allowed Seb Ross to get in on the back line. However, his shot was sliced high and wide. A bit of a rush of blood on that one. On 41 minutes and 44 minutes, St Mirren doubled their lead overall. The third goal came when Bacchus ran into Hutchinson in the penalty area, and the referee deemed that to be enough for a penalty kick, which Mark O'Hara dispatched very coolly. And the 44th minute had insult to injury for Ray McKinnon and his Forfar team. It was another corner all the way to the back post. Scott Tanser headed it down. Alex Gogic got in front of his marker to fire home from about 2 yards out. It's all but game over here at the Smitesa Stadium, and it's St Mirren 4, Forfar 0.
Thank you very much, Rory. Just to tell you that Ayr United got a very late goal actually in the first half, so that means it's 3-0 at half-time against Alloa. A win guarantees Ayr United top spot in Group A, and the other game in that group, as I mentioned, is St Johnstone 0, Stirling Albion 2, and a win guarantees Stirling Albion qualification. As things stand, that will be as one of the best placed runners-up. Now, before we go to get some of the reports from the other grounds, let's cross back to Murrayfield, where Andy Burke has been watching the first half of Scotland against Italy.
37 minutes on the clock, Al. Scotland 5, Italy 3. You'll remember before kick-off I said conditions had cleared up nicely. Well, that was the jinx for a massive downpour to bombard the Murrayfield pitch, and it's made this game not the best spectacle. The ball's been on the deck quite a lot, slipping out of players' fingers, but Ben Healy did set up Darcy Graham for a nice try. A beautiful crossfield kick found Graham in plenty of space to touchdown. Italy have responded with a penalty through Tommaso Allen, but it's not been the greatest of games so far. Very much a pre-season feel to it at the moment, but with a couple of minutes to go. Scotland pushing towards Italy line, looking to extend that advantage, but 2 minutes till half-time. Scotland 5, Italy 3.
Thanks, Berkey. Yeah, we'll hear more from you later in the programme. Scotland winning narrowly as things stand in that first World Cup warm-up. Now, I think we're going to head to Fir Park to hear more about the first half from Stephen Craigan between Motherwell and East Fife.
Yeah, well, coming into this game, Al, all the pressure was on the home side, Motherwell. East Fife had nothing to lose. They knew if they could win here in 90 minutes, they would win the group and progress in the competition. But it was 2 quick-fire goals just after the half-hour mark for Motherwell that looked to have killed this tie-off and have put Motherwell firmly in the driving seat. Lennon Miller finished off a wonderful counter-attack from Motherwell that involved Harry Payton, Callum Slattery. Young Lennon Miller into the box with his left foot on the left-hand side, put it low past Alan Fleming. Within 4 minutes it was 2-0. Connor Wilkinson was looking for his first goal all afternoon. He was bright, he was lively. Possession was turned over in midfield. He turned the East Fife defence. He was 25 yards out. It was probably easier to play young Lennon Miller into the exact same position where he had scored from just 4 minutes previously, but he didn't. He took it upon himself. A lovely strike with his left foot, low into the left-hand corner of Alan Fleming. Again, and Motherwell then work it in complete control, dictating the ball, dictating possession. But just before half-time, Jonathan Page handed Motherwell another huge boost. The East Fife captain got involved, I think with Shane Blaney possibly, and an off-the-ball incident. He got a straight red card from Kevin Clancy, and it's now East Fife have got a mountain to climb with 10 men. But with Ayr United scoring goals, I think with Airdrie sitting on 10 points, could potentially win their game. Motherwell know they have to go for more goals if they want to be seeded in the next round. So at half-time here at Fir Park, it's Motherwell 2, East Fife 0.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, the winner from that game goes through in top spot. The loser will be out, and it looks very much like Motherwell are on course to go through. But as Stephen says, a bit of work to do perhaps if they want to be seeded in the next game. Just to tell you again about these friendlies I've been trying to keep across. Celtic finished 1-1 in Dublin against Wolves, and Rangers have come from 2-0 down to Hoffenheim to level it up in the second half. Tavernier penalty and Sam Lammers on the score sheet for them. Now, I think we're going to head to the game between Hamilton Accies. No, I think we'll go to Albion Rovers against Kilmarnock ahead of that. It's Martin Dowden who's been watching that one.
Yeah, half-time, Albion Rovers 0, Kilmarnock 2. Kelly very much in control of this, on course to progress. The opener came when Brad Lyons was chopped down in a wide area. A nice free kick in from Danny Armstrong. Stuart Finlay came racing in pretty much unchallenged to tap the ball home. Fully deserved at that early stage. Matty Kennedy then sent in a rasper from distance. Cameron almost got in again after a nice move. Then Armstrong was denied well by Ross Connolly. Absolutely one-way traffic. The only surprise Kilmarnock hadn't gone further ahead. Rovers really struggled to get forward at all. The second came though, a short corner. The ball eventually floated in from the opposite side by Robbie Dees. Marley Watkins appeared to get the final touch from close range, a header, although my instinct was it might have been off target, and actually an own goal of Sean Fagan. That idea seems to be gaining a bit more traction at half-time. We'll clear that once and for all up at full-time rather. Derek McInnes though will be much happier. That cushion, 2 goals. This looking very much a formality now as they build up to the league opener next weekend against Rangers. I'd expect a bit of rotation in this second half with that in mind. Half-time, Albion Rovers 0, Kilmarnock 2.
Yeah, so Kilmarnock know that a win is enough to top the group there. Albion Rovers already out. The other game in that section is Annan Athletic 2, Raith Rovers 1. Raith really need to win to have any chance of becoming one of the best runners-up, but that looking less than likely just at the moment. A couple of other friendly scores to give you. Hibs, as I mentioned, are down in Blackpool playing a friendly, very much a second string, you might say, in terms of the Hibs lineup after playing out in Andorra on Thursday. They're nothing each at half-time, and Dundee United, who aren't in action in the Cup this afternoon either, they're beating Carlisle United 2-0. Now let's get to Hamilton, where Derek Ferguson is watching Hamilton against Cove Rangers. Half-time, 1 each, Derek?
Yeah, finally poised at the moment. Al, as you say, it's Hamilton 1, Cove Rangers 1. The opening goal came 13 minutes into the game after a pretty quiet start, I've got to say. The goal, it came from Barjonas. He was about 20 yards out. The first strike from about, as I say, 25 yards out, swimming in goals, unable to gather it in. It was Kevin O'Hara, alive to the situation as always, to knock the ball home from about 6 yards out. 5 minutes later, Accies could and probably should have doubled the lead. It was Winters down the left hand side, brilliant cross it was, finding the incoming Ryan Oney. He flashed the ball just over the bar from about 8 yards out. Cove lacking in ideas in the final third at times, but that's okay when you produce an unbelievable strike, and that strike came from Mark Gallagher, left hand side. He's about 30 yards out, pace, a dip on it, gave the goalkeeper absolutely no chance to level the score in 44 minutes. Absolutely brilliant goal. So that's how we sit at the moment. Hamilton Accies 1, Cove Rangers 1.
Thanks, Derek. And the other game in that group is between Livingston and Clyde. Jane Lewis.
Yeah, it's 0-0 here between Livingston and Clyde, but Clyde at half-time. And I'd imagine this has been a fairly frustrating first half for the Livingston fans and their manager watching on. They've seen their side pass the ball around really well, plenty of possession, not really troubled at the back. They've actually been really calm at the back, it's fair to say, albeit that Clyde are really threatening and causing them any real problems. But there's been some lovely play, as I say, some calm passing as well. They've been getting forward, but absolutely nothing to show for all that possession and neat play as yet. Stephen Kelly has had had some long-range efforts saved as he also blazed one over from a free kick that was in a really dangerous position. Christian Montano also has had some efforts from distance saved as well. Clyde haven't really threatened. They've had the odd wee shot on target or so, but nothing really to threaten Shamal George in the Livingston goal. At the end of the first half, they did have a corner. It was taken by John Craig. It fell kindly to Barry Cuddy, but his shot was well over the bar. Livy still in their hands. The second half is just underway, but Livingston need a goal in this one if they're to try and get through from the group stages. They should be ahead, but it's 0-0.
Thanks, Jane. Yeah, a bit of work to do in that group. Hamilton Accies still top, Livingston still in second. You are listening to Sportsound, and it's open all mics.
Chance! And it's a goal! Oh, what a goal!
All the action from all the biggest games.
Oh, it's the second goal! This is Open All Mics from Sportsound.
From BBC Radio Scotland.
All the guys back with us. Let's just squeeze in the last couple of half-time reports into Group B, where Falkirk currently sit top as a result of going ahead against Peterhead. It's Partick Thistle against the Spartans in the other game in that group. Thomas Duncan can bring us the first half action.
Yeah, we're underway in the second half. Couple of minutes gone. Still 0-0 here at Firhill. Really entertaining game though, despite the scoreline. Partick Thistle playing their kind of usual 4-3-3, passing it about really nicely, but they're meeting some stubborn resistance in the penalty area. Spartans with a back, three centre backs packing the box, defending really well and looked dangerous on the counter, and they actually went closest to scoring in the first half. A counter played out to Jamie Dishington about 30 yards out. He saw David Mitchell off his line, went for the chip, almost pulled it off. It just didn't dip fast enough. It clipped the bar, and then Blair Henderson had a tap in, or so he thought, to make it 1-0, but Harry Milne came from nowhere. Tremendous sliding tackle from the Thistle fullback to prevent Henderson, making it 4-4 in the group stage. And Thistle, as I say, they've had a lot of possession. They've actually passed it about really nicely. Their best chance came on the counter though. Lawless squared for Williamson, who just took a poor touch, should have pulled the trigger, and Spartans scrambled to clear. So yeah, goalless here, and as it stands, if it stays like this in this group, then Falkirk would be squeezing through on goals scored, I believe, but plenty of time left to play as Partick Thistle come on the attack. But currently it's Partick Thistle 0, Spartans 0.
Yeah, I think you're right, Thomas, because one of Partick Thistle and the Spartans will get a bonus point depending on who wins the penalty shootout if it ends all square. But Falkirk would have an equal goal difference as things stand, but have scored one more goal, so Falkirk would go through on 8 points. In the last game that we haven't got a half-time report on, Bonnyrigg Rose against Airdrie. Chick Young's watching that one.
Yeah, Alistair, we've actually started the second half. It's 0-0 at half time, still 0-0. And I have to say that Airdrie make a little bit of heavy weather of it in the first half. They had a chance. They get free kick from the player manager Bruce McCabe, which came off a defender, went beyond the far post. But Smart lost $1. A chance early on for Bonnyrigg as well. There's been a blow for Airdrie. They've lost Nikolai Todorov to an injury. Dean McMaster has replaced him. It's 0-0 at half time. Airdrie will have the breeze and indeed the slope behind them in the second half. And just briefly, just to let you know that Torkel, skippered by 11-year-old Cormac McDougall, finished and won the Lismore Raft race. Incidentally, in third place was the ferryman at Port Appin, whose raft is called Sinking Ship. Bit of a worry that.
Yeah,
still 0-0 at the football.
Tremendous stuff, Chick. Thanks for bringing us right up to date with all the action. So in that group, yeah, Airdrie only need a point, to be fair, to be guaranteed top spot. So the 0-0 will suit them just fine, but yeah, they will want to get maximum points from the group and continue their impressive run so far. So back underway round the country. The guys will keep us up to date with any goals that go in the second half, and it's all to play for, Leanne. Things in some groups certainly looking that bit clearer. Certainly Ayr United looking good, Ross County looking good, but there's other groups where it's still a bit up in the air.
Yep, big 45 minutes or slightly less now coming up for some teams, and no doubt the guys at the games will be treated to some brilliant action as the games draw to a close. We know that there's always some last minute goals. Then if we go to the penalty shootouts for the bonus points, etc., there'll still be a lot to look at. So we touched on it just before half time. It's been an action packed afternoon already. Sometimes you can watch a lot of these games, you don't get an awful lot of goals across many of them, but we've been littered with them in the first half, so hopefully that continues throughout.
Yes, indeed, long may that continue. We didn't hear from Michael at half time. He was conserving battery power up in Dingle. Still 2-1 to Ross County. Not quite sure if the second half has got underway there yet, but Michael will keep us up to date with any serious action that occurs in the Highlands. Ross County leading by 2-1 against Kelty Hearts, and looking good for qualification to the last 16. Of course, all the European involved clubs go straight into the hat for the last 16.
Goal at Firhill.
Yeah, who's it for, Thomas?
Partick Thistle break the deadlock. It's a fantastic move across the box. James Lyon comes to the front post and he just tucks it into the far corner, came off the post and into the side netting. Partick Thistle lead by 1-0 here at Firhill, and on course for the last 16 as it stands.
Yeah, that would take them top, certainly, and would eliminate the Spartans, who've obviously got a big league season to look forward to, but have been pretty impressive, not least in that victory over Dundee United in their League Cup campaign so far. In terms of Partick Thistle, Leanne and I were chatting about them a bit, Thomas, in terms of being a bit of an overhaul required for Chris Doolan. How are they looking, generally speaking?
Yeah, sorry, I was just furiously writing some notes there. They look good. They've passed it about a lot. They're playing one touch, slick stuff. They've just come up against a pretty good, until that moment where James Lyons tucked in nicely, a very assured Spartans defence. But this is the second time I've seen them. I did the commentary up at Tannadice when they beat Dundee United, and they started slowly but really grew into the game and played some nice stuff. So they're clearly going to play this way this season that Chris Doolan espoused last season. They brought them so much success and almost to the brink of the Premiership, where they're not taking a backward step, and it does come with a few risks, because they've been caught a few times here against Spartans, but for some last-ditch defending they maybe would have been behind, but it's certainly good on the eye, and the fans are enjoying it here at Firhill, and they certainly enjoyed that goal, and they're leading 1-0.
Yeah, and Falkirk have gone 3-1 up in that group as well. Thomas, it's Aguimang who's got their third goal, so Thistle need to stay in front. But let me tell you about another goal that's gone in at McDermott Park, and it is for Stirling Albion again. It is St Johnstone 0, Stirling Albion 3. I mean, it's an incredible scoreline, Leanne.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? I looked at the St Johnstone lineup, and probably looking at it, the likes of Considine starting on the bench. Probably players, they came on at half time, right enough. McGowan and Considine both came on. I kind of looked at it and thought, perhaps Stevie McLean's treated it as a game that he understands that there's nothing really to play for other than looking to get minutes in the legs and perhaps salvage a bit of confidence and reputation. But it's a really poor afternoon for them, and I said it's going to put St Johnstone and Stevie McLean under a fair bit of pressure looking ahead to the season. And the St Johnstone fans, if you were saying that Stuart Cosgrove felt that they had been, did you think, dominating games?
Bossing
Alan?
games was the phrase he
bossing
used.
Games. Well, you can boss games as much as you like, but results will be the only thing that fans will look at. And this afternoon, it's very, very poor.
Yeah, very much so. Now, there was another goal I was going to tell you about there. Raith Rovers have got an equaliser at Annan. As I say, they do need to win that game and hope that their goal difference is enough to send them through as one of the best placed third teams on. Would they be on 9 points? I think the goal difference was +4 going into this one, so I'm not sure that would be enough, but at least if they can get the victory they would be in contention. But 2-2 they stand away at Annan for the moment. But just reflecting on that scoreline at McDermott Park, it does have to admit that Stirling Albion, who of course won League 2 under Darren Young last season, and they've started the League Cup campaign certainly very well. McLean getting the third goal, and they would definitely go through as one of the best runners up on 10 points, currently on 7 coming into today's game. But 3-0 up at McDermott, and it's going to take a monumental comeback from Saints to turn that one round. I'm not sure anyone would particularly be putting any money on that. No further goals to report on so far in the second half. Rory Loy at St Mirren, 4-0 still.
No goals. There should have been though. McMenamin did miss a one-on-one, leading to a good save from Mark McCallum. But Stephen Robinson now does have the luxury of rotating, giving players minutes, etc. So he's brought on James Bolton, Olasanya and Lewis Jameson. Off as went 2-goal Mikael Mandaron, Alex Gogic, who got one of the goals, and Stav Nahamny. Didn't see much of him. He played on the left. Got good pedigree, Israeli under-21 international, but couldn't really get a kick today. But I do expect him to improve as time goes on. And Forfar have made one change. Finn Robson's went off and Craig Thompson has went on. Like I said, it was good play by substitute Lewis Jameson, who scampered down the left-hand side, playing in McMenamin one-on-one. He should have done better, but Mark McCallum came out and spread himself to make a good block. So it remains 4-0 here, but this could be anything. It could be 5, 6, 7 at some point. It just depends whether St Mirren want to drop down a gear or two or go up a gear or two.
We mentioned in the first half, Rory, about Mikael Mandaron not getting the chance to take that penalty. Now he's been hooked at half-time as a striker on 2 goals. How are you feeling about that?
Listen, I mean, I think if you're a week before the league season starting, your captain is the penalty taker, and he takes the penalty. As much as you would be frustrated, I think you would have to understand that that's the situation. And to be honest, Stephen Robinson, knowing the type of manager he is, I don't think he would have been happy if anyone other than Mark O'Hara would have taken it, because if one pops up next week, it'll be Mark O'Hara that takes it, that's for sure.
2-0 is one of those score lines as well, Rory, isn't it? You step up, you maybe miss a penalty, opposition goes up the other end and scores, all of a sudden the game's wide open. I'm sure there was an instant like that last season. I'm struggling to remember the team, but the team changed penalty takers and it certainly backfired. So
it does ring a bell, but
not overly surprised.
I can't remember the detail, but no, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Should have been a goal here for Livingston. Curtis Guthrie missed a really good opportunity just a few minutes ago. Lovely ball in from Mickey Devlin, who's playing really well actually, as a lot of the Livingston players are here this afternoon, albeit they're still struggling to hit the back of the net. But yeah, lovely ball in, floated in well, right to the head of Guthrie, who got on top of it really well, but just fired it straight into the hands of Jack Layfield, who's in goal for Clyde this afternoon. He should have done better. Livingston should be 1-up, but they're not. They're still 0-0.
I'm hearing news of a 4th goal for Stirling Albion in Perth, and it just gets worse and worse
that is a
for
disaster.
Stephen McLean.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a game changer, Al, but 4-0 at home against a League One club. And I was on the first game of the season. I was in the studio with Liam, and we were talking about Stephen McLean with Willie Miller, and we're talking about how he's delaying signings and he wants to wait for the right moment and he wants to get the right player. And I'd said at this stage of the season, all the good players, or the ones that you think might make you better, are probably all snapped up. So he's going to have to wait for loans or wait for something to materialise, get players who aren't fit, get players who haven't had a pre-season, get players who haven't played, and it's just coming back to haunt him a little bit. As an inexperienced manager, you can't afford to wait and delay signings. You need to move as quick as you can, and this could be a big, clearly it's a big shock this afternoon, but repercussions could follow this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a club in a certain state of flux, in the sense that they're essentially up for sale, and as I say, they did relatively comfortably steer clear of relegation in the end after the change of manager last season, but things not going at all to plan for Stephen McLean, certainly this afternoon, and you'd have to say in the League Cup campaign generally. But you've got to commend, I suppose to some extent, the work that Darren Young is doing at Stirling Albion. That is a phenomenal achievement, not only beating St Johnstone this afternoon comprehensively, but qualifying for the last 16, Leanne.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just researching there. I was slightly distracted because it was Erling Haaland offered up the penalty last season to Ilkay Gundogan against Leeds, and he missed the penalty for his hat-trick, and then Leeds went up the pitch and scored to put them under a bit of pressure. So
I think that could be the only time that Mikael Mandaron and Erling Haaland will be mentioned in the same sentence, Leah.
You said that, Craigs, not me. No, it's one of those moments. I've seen it in lots of games where you look to try and offer somebody that opportunity of a hat-trick, but hopefully Mandaron will have many other opportunities in a St Mirren jersey, as will Chick Young be hoping anyway.
Yeah, it certainly looks an astute signing.
I've jinxed you. I knew that when I said that at half-time. Chick, apologies. No action at all. Nothing to write home about.
No, actually, it's been a bizarro game. If you'd wandered into this and you didn't know which club was which here, you would say, well, you know, Bonnyrigg, look, every part is good as Airdrie do, despite the divisions between them. The good wee crowd inside the ground, the lovely sunny day, good atmosphere. But this second half, Airdrie have a fair old breeze and the slope to their favour, but they just haven't tested the goalkeeper at all in this game, to be honest with you. And Airdrie, they don't look like scoring. It's been a fair old performance. I mean, Airdrie know they're through and they'll be in the last 16, but Bonnyrigg Rose have been a test for them, which will maybe be a wee bit of a warning of what's to happen in the weeks to come. But I'm telling you, this will be going to penalties. I know, my personal nightmare.
Losing Todorov early on as well is a blow for Airdrie, because he seemed to again be a good signing. You know, I thought it was a good one for Rhys McCabe to acquire, but to lose him as early on in the game as well certainly unsettles perhaps the preparations and just the all-round feel of the team.
Michael's got another goal in Dingwall. It was 2-1 last we heard to Ross County. How are things stand now, Mikey?
And the way side Kelty Hearts have level to make it 2-2 and send the probably 30 or so Kelty fans over the far side wild. It was a great cross, or sorry, a corner actually for the manager Michael Tidser, and the half-time substitution Botty Diaby got up above the rest of the Celtic defence, and he knocks it in the back of the net. It was a really dangerous ball.
It's brilliant. Sorry mate, it's a goal for Cove. It's McGowan. Just picks the ball up. He's about 30 yards out, left-hand side, and he plays a wonderful ball into Burrow. Just he's breaking into the box, and he doesn't go for power. Just glances it to that far post. The keeper nearly gets there, but it just creeps in that far post area. Cove have been excellent. They've dominated the first 15 minutes or so this second half. They've been on the front foot, and you know, that was a wonderful ball from McGowan. He struggled in the first half to find those little pockets of space, but he's just done so there. But a terrific ball, lovely goal. So Cove go 2-1 up.
Goal, Albion Rovers right back in this one. A lovely ball over the top, floated all the way right into the path to Nia Joseph. He absolutely sent his header perfectly across the goal again, right into the corner, and from nowhere suddenly this game's back on. Albion Rovers 1, Kilmarnock 2.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah, Kilmarnock still in the driving seat there, but that goal for Cove Rangers, that really changes things. Let's have a look.
Changes everything. That means this is like I said before the game, Al. You know, it's winner takes all. Well, they're still looking at Livingston. They're still drawn, aren't they? So I was assuming that Livingston would, you know, take care of Clyde, and it was down to the teams here. Whoever wins here, you know, would go up as a runner-up. But I tell you what a difference, you know, because Aki's certainly the better side in the first half. They had 3 or 4 great chances, but what a difference. Whatever Paul has done at half time, the team talk, they're playing quicker, a little bit more slicker. They've created 1 or 2 chances in the second half, but it was again a wonderful goal, totally different from the first goal just coming at a break from Mark Gallagher. That was a wonderful strike, but it was a build-up play. It was brilliant, and McGowan, as well know, he's got that in his locker, and it's that telling pass, that final pass. And it was a great run from Burrow as well, you know, just breaking into the box. That's what they probably lacked, that little bit of quality. So they're in the driving seat, 2-1 up.
Yeah, so for Cove, a win is enough to win the group if Livingston don't get at least a bonus point. And so Livy can still obviously top the group even if they do draw, if they win the penalty shootout.
Oh, that's a brilliant double save, absolutely brilliant from Jack Layfield there in the Clyde goal. I have to say, Guthrie, and then I think it was Kelly in the rebound, or Montano it was on the rebound, who actually had a nasty head knock just a couple of minutes ago. But what a fantastic double save, great reactions. Livingston, I thought all they had to do was pop the ball in the back of the net, not once but twice, but my goodness, Layfield, take a bow.
Falkirk have won 4-1 up against Peterhead. That's in the same group as Partick Thistle against the Spartans. So Falkirk keeping up the pressure on Thistle. If the Spartans can get an equaliser, Falkirk, I think, would be looking at going through there. So goals continuing to flow in the second half.
Mark McCallum is, keeping this scoreline respectable at the moment. All the Sanyers come on in this second half, and he's made a difference. He got the winner at Cowdenbeath midweek in the 94th minute. He had a stop-start season last year. He was injured for large spells and went out on loan, so really getting going in a St Mirren shirt. But he's looked lively since he's come on. He's forced a couple of saves from Mark McCallum, and like I said, if it wasn't for him, this could have been 5 or 6, but it remains 4.
Biabi got the the Kelty equaliser. I'm not sure if Mikey actually brought the goal scorer to us, but just to clarify, I believe he did actually, but it was Biabi who got the leveller. And I mean, Ross County do only need a point in that game, Michael, to be guaranteed top spot, but they sound like they're making a bit heavy weather of it now.
Well, I wouldn't so much say that they're making heavy weather of it. It's credit to Kelty, because since they got the first goal, which was against their run of play, they've been pretty good. They've made a fist of it. They've made a contest of the game, and it's now the challenge to Ross County to step up again. But I wouldn't say that Ross County have been poor. I'd say it's more that Kelty Hearts have been better since they got the first goal. Obviously 2-2, as you said, it's enough for Ross County to still get themselves through. But it'll be a little bit too close for comfort, I'm sure, for Malky Mackay. He'll be looking for things to improve as this game starts to draw to a close.
Stephen Cragen at Firth Park. Motherwell still comfortable at 2-0?
Well, they are, Al, but I think they'll be disappointed they haven't had really any clear-cut chances to try and add to their 2-0 lead. I mean, with East Fife being down to 10 men, they're sitting deep as you'd expect. They're compact, they're hard to play against. And this was the problem I was talking about at the start of the game, that when games are like this, Motherwell don't seem to have that one player that can go and unlock the door. And just as I say that, Callum Slattery skips past two players and puts it into the bottom corner and denies sealing Motherwell's 3 points. But they were making hard work of it. They were passing the ball sideways. They've only got one centre forward, or one out-and-out centre forward on the pitch, which is Connor Wilkinson. In the first half, Harry Payton was trying to play as a centre forward stroke number 10, and him and Blair Spittler were kind of rotating. So when you come up against a really deep defensive back line, centre forwards know how to make the runs. I think they play better with their back to goal. Their link-up plays better, as opposed to Spittle and Payton playing up there when it's a little bit more unnatural to them. So certainly something Stuart will have to look at, if not before the start of the season, when it gets up and running before the window shuts. I think they need more than Connor Wilkinson, and they need more than John Opeka. But Callum Slattery, lovely finish, his second goal of the season. He scored down at Palmerston in match day 2 in the 3-3 draw to make it Motherwell 3, East Fife 0. And I think as it stands at the minute, with all the other results, they will be one of the seeded teams.
Lewis Jamieson has just missed an absolute sitter for St Mirren. It was with the head. The wing backs for St Mirren today are running absolutely rampant. Scott Tanser down the left hand side from a diagonal ball, takes a wonderful first touch, skips by his man, plants it right in the middle of the sticks, and Lewis Jamieson should really do better than he's got to just guide anywhere on target, and it's a goal. Somehow he managed to glance it wide. Remains 4-0.
4-0 in that one then. Has there been a goal between Queen's Park and Queen of the South? There has. It's Queen's, the visitors, who have taken the lead. It's Riley who's got them on the score sheet, and didn't notice that there had been a red card early in the second half for Charlie Fox for Queen's Park, and now they have lost a goal as well as Queen of the South. That game is pretty much immaterial. Neither side can progress, but Queen of the South, that is, ahead against Queen's Park at Lesser Hampden. That one in the same group as Motherwell, who lead by now 3-0 with Callum Slattery's goal, putting them in charge and pretty much guaranteeing them a place in the next round. And as Stephen said, almost certainly seeded. Ayr United have got a fourth goal. Looks like Bryden has got his second of the game, so they lead Alloa by 4-0. They are going through in pretty comprehensive fashion, and it's been a really good start to the season again for Lee Bullen's side. Leanne, who again, they impressed us quite a lot last season in the Championship.
Yeah, they did, and I'm looking forward to seeing them again this season. Of course, there's been headlines this week with the signing of Aidan McGeady. I notice he's not in the squad today, and I don't expect him to be. Certainly, it'll be interesting to see how much of a part he plays as the season goes on. I know his official title is technical manager, something along those lines as well. But was impressed with them. They fell by the wayside come the playoffs, certainly, and towards the end of the season they didn't find the same level of form that they had shown. Akinyemi, the goals that he had scored very much came in the first half of the season. You would need to see up until probably January, and then he certainly wasn't as fluent as he had been. So, but again, good strong squad, a lot of consistency within it as well. They've managed to keep the majority of the group together, and the Championship gets up and running on Friday night, which I'm looking forward to as always.
Yeah, that'll be good. Arbroath Dundee United, isn't it, in our first game on Friday night up at Gayfield. Arbroath looking to improve on last season when they flirted with relegation, and Dundee United certainly looking to bounce straight back up to the Premiership under Jim Goodwin. They haven't had the best of starts necessarily. They're not going to progress in the League Cup, and it looks like Partick Thistle, as things stand, will be the team that goes up from Group B, although Falkirk breathing down their necks in that group as well. They lead by 4-1 against Peterhead, but as things stand, they're unlikely to go through themselves as one of the best runners up. Now, who have we not heard from in a while? Jane, you've not had any goals. I mean, Livingston, are they knocking on the door, or Clyde coping quite well?
No, Livingston are knocking on the door. I have to say, that double save from Jack Layfield, I'm still in awe of it. It was absolutely stunning stuff. Guthrie from about 5 yards out, then Montano from close range as well on the rebound. Utterly sensational double saves. If they were to get anything from this match at all, then that young man could take a bow. I have to say, Livingston have made a couple of changes in this one. Jamie Brandon's come on for James Penrice. A bit surprised about that, because I thought Penrice was looking pretty dangerous, actually putting in some lovely balls as well. And Michael Nottingham has come on for his debut. He's been signed from Accrington Stanley. He's replaced Tom Parks. I've just seen him put in a throw, and it looks like he might be the champion of the long throw-ins, Al, which, as we all know, can be a bit of a dangerous tool. But yeah, took a long throw-in. It just missed the head of Obolai, who was up there looking dangerous in the box. But yeah, Livingston certainly knocking on the door. But the longer this one goes on, then obviously the more likely we are heading to penalties, which I'm sure I will be absolutely joyous about.
Matty Allen has just cracked the crossbar for Forfar. It was a wonderful corner in, and he's arrived perfectly on the penalty spot, met it flush with the forehead. So unlucky. It's battered off the crossbar. Very unlucky not to get a consolation goal for Forfar, but it remains 4-0.
2-0 Morton, thanks to a Crawford goal against Edinburgh City, and Arbroath have got a second against Montrose. Not got a goal scorer for that one yet, but another man who's counting down the minutes to the penalty shootout. Chick Young still goalless between Bonnyrigg and Airdrie.
It is, although you nearly joined me with perfect timing there. It was Josh O'Connor put clean through. I thought he was offside actually, because I'm right almost in line with it, but the referee, linesman allowed to play on, but the goalkeeper got a touch, put it beyond the post. It's no sign of a goal, but it's got quite meaty, I have to say. But Kerr Young just launched a challenge for Bonnyrigg that was resulted in a yellow card for him, and there's been one or two challenges. I think the frustrations begin to come through. I think Bonnyrigg have done really well in this. Alistair, Airdrie, I was given the big billing ahead of the game, but they haven't really produced what I would have expected them to come from them, although they're in a comfortable position obviously in terms of qualification. I wondered what Rhys McKay will have to say about his team later on, but I seek a goal, and I'm still dreading, like Jane, the penalty. Sure, here's a chance for Bonnyrigg. It's going to get booted clear. Still 0-0.
There was another chance here for Curtis Guthrie as well. Great ball in, floating ball in from Jason Holt, who can just deliver it.
Oh, it's a penalty, surely. Oh, here we go. It's a penalty, I think, and this could well be a red card as well. It's a break. Oh, he's given a yellow. It was Josh O'Connor, clean through. He was just about around the goalkeeper. Challenge came in, brought him down at the edge of the box. I thought that was a red card. I have to say, clear goal scoring opportunity. The referee has given him a yellow card, and the Airdrie fans in the background are kind of go with my school of thought here, but it will be a penalty to Airdrie. So penalty rather than penalties is always a good move in my book. We'll see how this happens.
Yeah, we'll see if that one is converted. Craigs, did you have something to report?
Yeah, well, it should have been 4-0. Connor Wilkinson went through one-on-one. It was a great save by Fleming, and then in the follow-up he was just slightly offside. Actually put the ball into the back of the net, and the referee's assistance flag went up. But I actually feel a little bit sorry for Bran Easton. He got done by Connor Wilkinson as he went through one-on-one. The ball rebounded back. He's lying with a hamstring injury. Lennon Miller has a shot and strikes him in the back of the head, so it was a double whammy for him. He had to go off the pitch, but yeah, still 3-0 to the home side.
We've got a problem taking this penalty kick, Alistair, because the ball is going into the crowd and it's not been returned. Well, there's one come out from the dugout there. I think it will be, I thought it was going to be Rhys McKay. I've seen this Airdrie do this before. They let the penalty taker, alleged penalty taker, take all the pressure, and then at the last minute it's switch, and it's Josh O'Connor, the man who was brought down with the penalty kick. He's going to take this, I think, right-footed. I'm right in line with the goal line. It's O'Connor over the penalty kick, taking an age with this one actually. Goalkeeper moving in the line. This would be the goal, I'm sure, brings some relief to the Airdrie fans. Here comes O'Connor, right-footed, and he scored. He has scored. Penalty kick for Airdrie. They go ahead 1-0, and they could come out of this group with a 100% record. It is Bonnie Rigdale.
Looks like it's Bruce Anderson that's got the goal just from the edge of the box. He just rolled it into the ball-up ball. My eyesight was going to the left as looks like Joel Nupley's about to come on, and so I took my eye off the ball slightly just to see who was coming off. But yeah, Bruce Anderson, I should say. Bruce Anderson looks to have got the goal here for Livingston, and they will be very relieved.
Yeah, that could be massive for Livy. That would put them top of the group as things stand. That was the last game that was standing goalless after Josh O'Connor's penalty in the Bonnyrigg Airdrie game crossed the line just ahead of Bruce Anderson scoring for Livingston against Clyde. So big moves certainly in Group C for Livy, going above Cove Rangers as things stand. Airdrie consolidating their position at the top of Group E with Dundee in action tomorrow, and they will still be in with a chance of qualifying if they can beat Inverness Cally Thistle. They might have to score a few goals to make sure they go through, and goal difference will clarify all that as things progress. But we are certainly heading towards full time in these games in the last 20 minutes, certainly, of all the games around the country, and things beginning to get a little bit clearer. Ayr United have gone 5-0 up, really impressive stuff. It's Pendlebury who must be, I guess, a new signing for them over the close season for Lee Bullen's side. He has put Ayr United 5-0 up against Alloa with a 70th minute strike. He came in from Aldershot, I am reliably informed in my ear, and
I think that puts him in a really strong position, Al, doesn't it, as well, because I think at the minute it's Airdrie, Motherwell and Ayr who are going to be the seeded teams. But if Ross County managed to score and win their game, I think it's Airdrie, Ross County and Ayr as it stands, and Motherwell would miss out. So Motherwell need to keep, try and rack up some more goals.
Yeah, I must admit that in all of my preparations, and they were fairly meticulous, Craigs, but I didn't look at the who was going to be seeded in the next round, I have to admit. So I'm relying on you to keep me right on that front.
That's poor from you, Alistair.
I know.
I trust you, Al. You're fine. You're a good man.
I have to say to you, Alistair, my head was absolutely ripping when I was reading that. So I can only just imagine how you were feeling when you were trying to work it all out. Fair play. It was a good bit of work. Very well done.
Thanks, June. That means
apart from the lack of seedings, that's terrible. Terrible oversight.
I don't think that would have been hard work. Surely that's just the type of knowledge that you have, Alistair. We've grown accustomed to that now. I'm surprised that people are actually surprised.
You mean the body of work as a whole?
Yes, correct.
That's really kind of good. Yeah.
Well, look at him in the studio with you, but anyway.
We're not surprised, we're Leanne. We're just terribly glad he did it.
No, I know. We all were ahead of these fixtures today.
By the way, there's been a penalty here at Livingston. It looks like Bruce Anderson is putting the ball on the spot. I have to say, I'm a little bit bemused as to what happened here. I think it might have been for handball in the area. We'll get some clarity on that. But Bruce Anderson, he certainly is going to take this one as he looks to make it. It's been saved and headed away the rebound as well. Great save. What a game Jack Layfield has had, albeit his team are losing. But yeah, that penalty kick was right at him. I have to say, it was a good height, but he still had to do the business to save it, and he did just that. Still 1-0 to Livingston.
Yeah, that would have put Livingston, made them a bit more comfortable at the top of the table there, but just 1-0 still against Clyde Martin Down. I think you had something to add.
Yeah, I was just trying to break up that Al Lamont loving, to be honest. But yeah, 3 changes from Kilmarnock. They've taken off Danny Armstrong, Innes Cameron and Kyle McGuinness. I initially thought at half-time, when they were so comfortable, they would do that just to get legs or minutes into legs. But as this game's progressed, you can just sense Albion Rovers sense that tiny chance they might be able to pull something out of this. That fabulous goal from Joseph on the run, a header into the corner, just placing it into a little bit of doubt. Ndaba, and Polworth and Watson have all come on for Kilmarnock, and I think Derek McInnes is just looking for a little bit more just to seal progression and make this a little bit more comfortable.
Lewis Vaughan from the penalty spot has put Wraith Rovers
in
front again.
For Hill.
Yep.
And Spartans have equalised. Wow. And it's that man, Blair Henderson. He scored for the 4th League Cup group game in a row, and Partick Thistle have been getting sloppy. The crowd around me I've been sensing it. They've been giving the ball away. White headed just over for Spartans moments ago, and this time they got down the left-hand side. It's ball across the box. He's 7 yards out. He's got time to take a touch and then side-foot it past David Mitchell, and that means it's 1-1 here at Firhill between Thistle and Spartans, but that also means that Falkirk are in pole position to reach the last 16.
Yeah, we'll look into that in a bit more detail in a minute. Queen of the South have got a second against Queen's Park. 2-0 they lead, but yeah, you're right, Thomas, that Falkirk currently leading Peterhead by 4 goals to 1. And I think that would put them ahead of Thistle, regardless of the bonus point win if Thistle were to get it on goal difference at the moment. But keep an eye on that and just see how things change, if at all. But a huge goal for the Spartans. It's essentially a goal that eliminates both them and Partick Thistle if things stay the way they are at the moment. But certainly going to be some late drama in the closing quarter of an hour, you would imagine, with a lot of games still in the balance. Let's just go through the results, or the score lines as they stand just at the moment. It's Ayr United 5, Alloa 0, St Johnstone 0, Stirling Albion 4, Group B, Falkirk 4, Peterhead 1 and Partick Thistle 1, as we've just heard, the Spartans 1. Group C, Accies 1, Cove Rangers 2 and Livingston 1, Clyde 0. Group D, Morton 3. I don't think I've given you that third goal, so I'll go and check that in just a second. Morton 3, Edinburgh City 0 and Ross County 2, KLT Hearts 2. Group E, Bonnyrigg 0, Airdrie 1. Group F, Albion Rovers 1, Kilmarnock 2 and Annan Athletic 2, Raith Rovers 3. Group G, Motherwell 3, East Fife 0 and Queen's Park 0, Queen of the South 2. Group H, Arbroath 3, Montrose 0 and St Mirren, as it was at half-time, 4, Forfar 0. And just going to go back to that, Morton, Alexander King, the goal scorer for them. So they are still in contention to qualify. Probably still, certainly still is one of the best runners-up. They have a good goal difference. They're probably the best goal difference, actually, of the teams in second spot on 9 points. There's going to be maybe 2 or 3 of them come the close of play. So the more goals they score, the more comfortable position Dougie Imrie's side will be in terms of being one of the runners-up. But just to confirm, at the moment in Group B, Falkirk in pole position, because even if Partick Thistle get a bonus point if things stay as they are, 1-1, if they get a bonus point, their goal difference would still not be as good as Falkirk. So Falkirk on just 8 points will go through as winners from Group B. But still, you'd have to say a lot of football to be played. Just over 10 minutes left, and we know that things can change rapidly in the closing stages of these games. Still a lot to play for. Who should we hear from now? Derek Ferguson at Hamilton against Cove Rangers. That one's certainly still in the balance, but Cove on top, Derek?
Very much so, Al. They've been excellent in the second half, right from the get-go. They dominated, got their goal. Wonderful goal it was to get their noses in front, and they're dominating play. They're forcing it. Accies have made... Well, they've made every change they can. They've brought Smith on, Zanata's on, Murray's on, McGlynn's on, and McGinn has had no impact whatsoever. Struggling. I think it's actually weakened them, to be honest with you. They're playing second fiddle, and they sense blood. I think Cove just going for it. They've created 1 or 2 other little kind of half chances, but no, it looks a real struggle at the moment for Accies and the fans. And they're not very patient here, as I know, at Hamilton, and they've been venting their feelings. But at the moment, we've got about 12-13 minutes to go. Certainly Cove looking good to take all 3 points here.
Yeah, so they're on 9 points, but their goal difference currently stands at 0. So they would have a nervous wait to see how other teams on 9 points stood in terms of their goal difference. Dundee, as I mentioned, could finish on 9 if they beat Inverness Cali Thistle tomorrow. They've got a goal difference of +2 at the moment, so they would certainly be better than Cove if they get the victory. Morton are in 9 points in second place in Group D with a goal difference of +7, so they are looking pretty good. Ayr and Stirling and Livingston certainly looking good. Ross County also, Airdrie certainly with if they can hold on to victory against Bonnyrigg, will be through the top of Group E on 12 points. Kilmarnock, currently on 10 points, will go through at the top of Group F. Wraith Rovers are currently on 9 points with a goal difference of 3 in second place, so would be in contention.
We've got a penalty here, Al. Sorry, Partick Thistle. I've got a penalty. Wow. It came from a throw, and Aaron Muirhead went halfway down the tunnel and ran it all the way up, launched it, and then it came and fell to Tommy Adeloy, the new signing who's come off the bench. He had a shot on goal from 8 yards out, and it's come off a hand. I'm not sure which Spartans player had their arm out, but it's come off a hand. Gavin Duncan pointed to the spot, and Brian Graham, the Thistle captain and number 9 talisman, is stepping up to try and take this. The blue shirts of Spartans are around the referee at the moment, just protesting the decision, but Brian Graham's got the ball in his hand. He's about to plant it on the spot, and if he can stick this away and beat Blair Carswell, then Thistle will go back top of this group as it stands and on course for the last 16. Carswell, though, penalty hero before in the playoff semi-finals, and finally saved a penalty in the opener when they beat Dundee United, denying Tony Watt. Let's see what he's got here. Gavin Duncan's blown the whistle. Short run up, Brian Graham with the right foot. He smashed it into the top corner. He runs away in celebration, jumps and punches the air. Partick Thistle 2, Spartans 1.
That's a huge goal, Jan. If you wanted anyone to step up to the plate for Partick Thistle, Brian Graham would be your man.
Well, in previous games over the last couple of seasons, we've not seen him hit penalty kicks, and I do recall once upon a time Ian McCall saying he was rotten at them, and that's why he wasn't allowed to hit one. So he's obviously pulled rank, being the captain, and he's decided that he'll hit the penalties if and when he can, and it could be a huge goal this afternoon, no doubt. He had a brilliant season last season, extended his contract as well at Partick Thistle, which is a huge boost for the Firhill contingency that have been out in their numbers supporting over the last 18 to 24 months through the tough times as well as the good times. So a big goal for Brian Graham this afternoon.
Yeah, it could be massive for Thistle, and as Thomas says, as things stand, it would take them through as group winners ahead of Falkirk. It could be heartache for Falkirk, who would slip into second but wouldn't be in contention as best runners up, because they've only got the 8 points. You're going to need at least 9 to get through, and Falkirk won't hit that mark. Yeah, let's hear from Michael Stewart in Dingwall again. Ross County against Kelty, 2-2 last we heard, Mikey.
Yeah, 2-2, and both sides have been sort of knocking at the door. Just there, Ross County, a good break forward. The ball came into the box. It looked as if it was going to fall to Kyle Turner. He was going to be able to get a strike. It just was a couple of inches too far front. They had to take an extra touch, and then the opportunity had passed. But not long before that, Kelty Hearts were the team that breaking up the other end of the park. It was a whole game was in Kelty's half. Then they got the counter attack, and it was Daramola who was breaking forward, just lightning pace, knocked it past the Ross County defence, got in behind them, played it brilliantly into the middle of the goals. And here's another chance. Oh, it's a goal! It's a goal for Ross County. I think James Brown's close, but I think it's deflected into the back of the net. I think his strike is maybe going just past the post, and it deflects up into the back of the net to put Ross County 3-2 in front. I was just explaining just before that Kelty Hearts have had chances up the other end. County have had chances. It's been a very, very tight game in the second half. Ross County now 3-2 in front with 5 minutes left to go.
Thanks, Mikey. Arbroath have got a third goal against Montrose. Bird with the goal there. The second one was scored. They gave this one by Dunwall Turan. And as Mikey says, 3-2 now to Ross County. It doesn't really change things in the grand scheme of things. Ross County just needed a point to top that group, and it looks very much now like they will get all 3. We'll just keep an eye on
it changes things with regards to Motherwell, because that means they wouldn't be seated in it, because they wouldn't be seated in the next round. It means Airdrie on 12, Ross County on 12, Motherwell and Ayr are level on points. Goal scored, goal difference. Ayr are +7, Motherwell +6, and goal scored, they're both the same. So if Motherwell get a goal, they would then be seeded. So a big 3 or 4 minutes for Motherwell to try and get a goal.
Yeah, you're quite right, Crash. Thanks for pointing that out. I knew I could rely on you for that. So
full time in Paisley, St Mirren 4-4-0.
That sounded like a pretty straightforward second half. Rory, as I see, Ayr United have got a 6th goal against Alloa Rose on the score sheet. But yeah, I mean, was that a case of just seeing the game out second half, Rory?
Yeah, pretty much. Olasanya looked pretty lively when he came on. I expected the subs that came on to try and make things happen, given it's the first league game next week. They'll want to push to be in the starting 11, but yeah, it was pretty routine, to be fair. They were a little bit slack in possession at times, but 4-0 up with 20 minutes to play against a lower league opposition. I suppose it's to be expected that your concentration isn't peak. However, very, very comfortable on the day. Deserved winners. Forfar probably should have had a goal for themselves at some point, but St Mirren, like I said, no arguments whatsoever. The better team won.
Thanks, Rory. We'll hear maybe more comprehensive roundup just at the end of all the full-time whistles. Edinburgh City have got a goal back against Morton. Morton's goal difference is still good, but they won't want it to be dented because they do have ambitions of going through as one of the best runners-up. But it's 3-1 there. Murray on the score sheet late on for Edinburgh City. And just flicking through the other scorelines, no other late goals going in that I don't think I haven't told you about.
Full time here for Park Al. Motherwell 3, East 5-0. As it stands, Motherwell will qualify as group winners, but will not be seeded.
So Motherwell through, that's for sure. And we'll just have to wait and see as to whether they're seeded in the final shake-up there. But are you...
We'll have certainly a good bit of time added on. It was Kel McDonald. He's just absolutely... He's caught McGowan flush right in the face, and sometimes you think, get yourself up, but there's a little bit of claret there. He's very unhappy with McGowan. Looks a real sore one. It's actually been took off now, so I think it's right in the nose, so hopefully he's okay. But yeah, it was dangerous play. McDonald picked up a booking, but McGowan not happy, but play was stopped there. That was a good 3-4 minutes, so I'm sure we've still got a little bit of time added on here.
McGowan looks like a good signing for Cove, doesn't he, Derek?
Yeah, and he was instrumental, in the goal. He picked up that, which he struggled a little bit in the first half. He's great in those little pockets of space, but when he got in there, his final pass, it was precise, it was bang on, and it was that little bit of class that they needed. But as I say, he's a feisty little character as well. He wasn't happy, but you can see why. There's a lot of blood there, so looks as if he's took a real sore one. But Cove has been excellent here in the second half, and partly down, as you say, to McGowan. Good signing.
Yeah, looks it.
Full time here at Fairhill. Partick Thistle have won this game by 2-1. Brian Graham's penalty is the difference, and they'll go through to the last 16 as group winners in Group B. I should add, James Cragen was sent off after that penalty was awarded. I wasn't sure if it was him who got a second yellow for the handball or whether it was him for dissent, but either way, Spartans played out the final few minutes with 10 men. Partick Thistle, after a skate at the end, get the job done. They win here at Firhill by 2-1 against Spartans.
Thanks, Thomas. I think Martin Dowden was also saying that Kilmarnock had won by 2-1 away at Albion Rovers, securing their place in the next phase. And Partick Thistle, as Thomas says, guaranteed to be through as group winners of Group B. They go ahead of Falkirk and certainly of Dundee United and Spartans. And there was a 4th goal went in for Morton in the interim there. Cameron Blues restoring their 3-goal advantage. Chick Young still playing at Bonnyrigg, but it's 1-0 Airdrie.
Yes, Al, exactly that. We're well into time added on. I'm up to a real scramble at the box way at that far end. It's I think that far goal's nearer you than it is me, Alistair. It's so bizarre positioning to watch a football match, I have to say, certainly to report on one. But I have to say Bonnyrigg Rose have done very well. Airdrie ahead, remember, by that goal scored by Josh O'Connor after 73 minutes. And actually in the wake of that, Airdrie look a bit more relaxed. They've created another couple of opportunities, including one that was a shot from well in their own half, which went just over the bar. The goalkeeper was petrified by that one. They've got another corner, but I think they're cruising to all 3 points and a 100% record in the group.
Thanks, Chick. So Airdrie going to clinch their spot, and looks like they will be one of the seeded teams. There is a penalty in Dingwall. There's going to be late drama for you there, Michael Stewart.
Yeah, indeed, it's a penalty kick for Kelty Hearts. Just a ball over the top, and that pace of Botti Biabi has caused all sorts of chaos in the second half, as has the pace of Daramola. The ball over the top, he got into the box, faced up Jack Baldwin, and there was a collision coming together. The right decision, I think, pointed to the penalty spot, Stephen McLean, and now Ross Cunningham is about to step up with a chance to take the game to penalty shootout and make it 3-3 here. He's just whistles blown, takes the penalty, and he scores.
Wow.
3-3.
So that changes things, not so much in terms of who goes through in that group, because Ross County just needed the point, which they will get at least a point, but as Stephen Craigan was pointing out, it will change things in terms of seedings. And I think, Stephen, is that what you're saying, that Motherwell would therefore be seeded as things stand?
Sorry, I'll just tell you that it's full time here at Livingston, 1-0 to Livingston. Bruce Anderson with a winning goal.
Thanks, Jane. Ideal. That does mean that Livingston win that group. Cove, if they can hold on to their victory, will finish in second, and we'll have to wait and see if they are one of the sides who can go through as best runners-up. We'll try and bring you the clarity on that as soon as we possibly can. So in terms of the games that are still playing, Derek Ferguson, you're still underway. Aki, you reckon there'll be a fair bit of added on time there?
I would think so. McGowan went down with that head knock, and it was a good 3-4 minutes, and quite rightly so, because there was a hell of a lot of blood there. It was at the stand side, and and he wasn't too happy, and you could see why. But no, this is a second half that Cove they've dominated right from the off. I mean, it was a wonderful goal to finish the first half from young Gallagher. Absolutely brilliant goal, and it's just fuelled them into the second half. And got a little spurt from Aki's here towards the end, but Cove just clearing their lines. But no, Cove, whatever Paul Hartley had said at half time, it certainly worked, because they were quicker, they were sharper, they were more dominant in the middle of the park, creating chances, and their second goal was a wonderful goal. McGowan with that pass to Burrow, lovely little header. But as I said, that as much as they've been in control of the usual we get with Hamilton, they're just putting that final little spurt in, but I don't think they're going to be able to kind of put a dent in this Cove side, because they've got a little back. Can you believe this, Al? Oh my goodness gracious, we've got another wonderful goal. Is that Tumulty? He just picked up, he's away out in the right hand side, I kid you not, 18 yard, and he's thought, why not? And he's absolutely whacked it, and it's ended up away that far. Right hand corner from absolutely nowhere. Astonishing. 2 each. Think we might have penalties. That's incredible.
It's certainly looking like that.
He's no right to have a shot. They're building up the play, right hand side, the 18 yard box, about 50, and he's about 15 yards out from the byline. So you're thinking, play the percentage ball into a good area. They've got men in the box, but no, he absolutely whacks it, and I don't know if it took a little deflection off the underside of the bar, but that's another fantastic goal. It's been a good game. Aki's dominated that first half, had the better chances, but it's been all Cove in the second half. But right at the death here, we're in level terms, and that's the final whistle, Al.
Wow, incredible finish there for Derek.
But I love it.
Aki's 2, Cove Rangers 2, penalty kicks to follow, and Aki's need the bonus point if they are to have hopes of being one of the best runners up, and all the games coming to a conclusion now. It's full time in Dingwall. It's finished Ross County 3, Kelty Hearts 3, so we'll have penalties up there for Michael to describe for us, and Derek will have a similar scenario between Hamilton Accies and Cove Rangers. So things beginning to look a little bit clearer, but still some things to be decided across the country. Queen's Park got a late goal back there against Queen of the South. That reduced the arrears to 2-1, but Leanne, what an afternoon it's been.
It's been frantic. Yeah, we knew there was going to be some late drama. There always is. Although there was a point that I was thinking, wow, we're not even going to get one penalty shootout to round the day off, but we've now got two in the latter stages. But some good stuff, some good games that the guys have been out to. Certainly some good reports as well along the way, and plenty of goalmouth action. It's just going to be up to the teams now to play it out for these bonus points and look at the final permutations and where it leaves everyone.
Yeah, well, let's take a quick look at who we know have won the groups. Ayr United, they are definitely through as group winners in Group A on 11 points. Stirling Albion actually are definitely through as runners-up in that group because they've got 10 points. So they will definitely be one of the best runners-up. Partick Thistle, they have won Group B, so they are certainly through in that one. Livingston have won Group C. They are through. Hamilton Accies might be able to join them if they can get the bonus point in the penalty shootout. Ross County, they've won Group D regardless of the outcome of the penalty shootout against Kelty Hearts after the 3-3 draw there. Morton still in contention, you would have to think, on 9 points in second place, but with a goal difference of +7. Airdrie have won Group E. 4 wins from 4, very impressive. Maybe not so much in victory today against Bonnyrigg Rose, but over the course of the campaign, 4 wins from 4 from Rhys McCabe's recently promoted side, puts them through on 12. Dundee could potentially join them if they can beat Inverness Cally Thistle by a requisite number of goals tomorrow to put them on to 9 points. We'll just get the detail of how many they need just shortly. Kilmarnock have won Group F on 10 points. Raith Rovers currently sitting on 9 with a goal difference of 3, so they could be joining them. Motherwell are through as winners of Group G, and they've got 11 points. No others will join them from that one. And St Mirren just edging, well, certainly not on the day edging Forfar. They won 4-0, but edging ahead of them in Group H. Forfar on 9 points as well with a goal difference of 0. Michael Stewart, penalties underway in Dingwall.
Yeah, they are indeed, and Jan Danda has already taken the first one for Ross County and slipped into the back of the net, sent Kyle Gourley the wrong way. And now it's the first penalty for Kelty. It's Cunningham. Oh, just sneaks under Ross Laidlaw. 1-1.
Cove just had their first penalty, Al. It was Kerr just going up there. No flash or anything, just put his foot through the ball down the middle. So Cove convert the first penalty.
Okay, guys, just let us know as things.
It's O'Hara for Accies. No surprise there. The goal scorer in the first half, just prodding it home from close range. So he's just putting the ball on the spot. Takes a little 2 or 3 steps backwards. Pretty calm in his approach, and it's a calm finish, 1 each. Lovely finish. I think he just waited to let the keeper go to the right hand side and just side foots it to the opposite corner. 1 each.
Turner's just put his penalty kick in the back of the net for Ross County. They're 2-1 up, and it's Lewis Moore stepping up for Kelty Hearts to take their second penalty and try and maintain a 100% record so far. Whistle's blown, readies himself, steps up, and he scores. Okay.
Cover scored as well. It's Burrell, the goal scorer in the second half. That lovely little glancing header into the back of the net. He just, again, very calm, just went up, a little kind of run to the left-hand side and then right-footed again, down the middle. The keepers are, they've got to guess, but that's been 2 that's been straight down the middle. I think we've got young Murray here, substitute. Oh, I tell you what, he's converted it. So we're 2 each, but I tell you what, the keeper, Suman got a hand to that. I tell you what, it had to be placed right in the corner, right inside the post. If it wasn't, that was certainly going to be a save. But it's 2 each at the moment.
And Eamon Brophy's just put his penalty away for Ross County. Really nice. Whipped it, reversed it into the bottom corner, sent Kyle Gourley the wrong way. 3-2 to Ross County, and Rhys Line, the Kelty captain, is stepping up to take their third penalty.
Yep, and Cove make it 3-2. That's Golden, just converted. Again, I wouldn't say it's down the middle, but it wasn't the best of penalties. Side foot was nowhere near inside the post. But again, Smith, Aki's keeper, he goes to his right hand side and but the most important thing is into the back of net. So 3-2 at the moment. Aki's now taken there, not sure. Oh, it's a save! It's hard to tell the numbers. The Akis have the way they've got that. I'll tell you as he comes up. That looks like, to me, it looks like Tumulty. So as but Akis have missed, so that's it's advantage Cove Rangers at the moment.
They won the playoff in penalties, didn't they? In fact, lost the playoff to Airdrie on penalties, I should say.
Yeah,
so
that's a missed penalty here. It was Reesline had put the ball in the back of the net to make it 3-3, and then it was Scott Allaby stepping up for Ross County. Poor penalty, right in the middle, not really into the corners at all. Kyle Gourley got down low, made the save, and now Kelty Hearts have Daramola stepping up, and they've got the opportunity to get their noses in front.
Yeah, that's sub Kyle Makita. He's just converted for Cove, so they go 4-2 up. I think it's substitute. Looks like Joe McGlynn is coming up to
Akis. And Kelty Hearts have missed the opportunity.
Well, he's missed, and he's missed it by a country mile. So Cove won the penalty shootout. Oh, that was a woeful penalty, but I'll not say too much about that. Important thing for Cove, they deserved in the second half. They were excellent, held their bottle in the penalty shootout, so Cove won.
So Aki's missed out on a bonus point, which would have guaranteed them a place in the last 16 as one of the best runners-up. It would have taken them on to 10 points, level with Livingston, albeit with a poorer goal difference. But they remain on 9 points, albeit with a goal difference of 3. So they are going to be struggling potentially. Let's look at Wraith, are also on +3. I think they're going to be... Stirling are certainly through as one of the best placed runners-up. Dundee will have the opportunity tomorrow to move on to 9 points. Michael, how things are going up there?
Well, we had 6 out of 6 to begin with, and now the last 3 penalties have been missed, and we've got Botti Biabi stepping up with a chance to seal it for Kelty Hearts. The last Josh Sims was the last one that stepped up for Ross County, and his save was kicked. His penalty spot kick was saved, and now Biabi about to step up with a chance to win the penalty shootout for Kelty Hearts. Goal! Kelty Hearts get the bonus point.
Okay, so that's things wrapped up in Dingwall. We'll go into a whole lot more detail about how things stand, but it looks to me at the moment as though Stirling certainly are going through in second place. Morton also as the best with 9 points, the best goal difference, but still Dundee will have the opportunity to catch Wraith Rovers, who I think are currently the one in third spot in terms of the qualifiers, but we'll clarify all of that after the slightly delayed 5 o'clock news.
On digital radio,
FM,
online at BBC Sports Scotland,
your smart speaker,
and on BBC Sounds.
This is Sportsound from BBC Radio Scotland.
There's no substitute.
Well, it promised to be a really fascinating and thrilling afternoon in the League Cup in the final weekend of the group stages, and it hasn't disappointed us. Great drama across the course of the afternoon. Let me just run you through the full-time scores, and then I'll try and establish exactly who's gone through and who's still waiting to find out. In Group A, it finished Ayr United 6, Alloa Athletic 0, St Johnstone 0, Stirling Albion 4. Group B, Falkirk 4, Peterhead 1, Partick Thistle 2, the Spartans 1. Group C, Hamilton Accies 2, Cove Rangers 2, Cove 1, 4-2 on penalties, and Livingston 1, Clyde 0. In Group D, Morton 4, Edinburgh City 1, and Ross County 3, Kelty Hearts 3. Kelty Hearts win 4-3 on penalties. In Group E, Bonnyrigg Rose 0, Airdrieonians 1. Dundee play Inverness Caley Thistle tomorrow, and that's still a hugely important game. Group F, Albion Rovers 1, Kilmarnock 2, and Annan Athletic 2, Wraith Rovers 3. Group G, Motherwell 3, East Fife 0, Queen's Park 1, Queen of the South 2. And finally in Group H, Arbroath 3, Montrose 0, St Mirren 4, Forfar Athletic 0. So, let me tell you, first of all, this is more straightforward. The group winners are Ayr, Livingston, Airdrie, Ross County, Kilmarnock, Motherwell, St Mirren and Partick Thistle. To second place. Now remember, 3 of the best placed second place teams go through. Stirling Albion guaranteed to go through. They finished on 10 points, so they are certainly through. A host of teams, like 4 so far, and Dundee tomorrow can still finish on 9, so that's 5 potentially finishing on 9. So first of all, it comes down to goal difference. Morton, I've got the best of those on +7. Beyond that, you're then looking at Wraith and Hamilton Accies, who are both finished on +3. However, Wraith Rovers have scored more goals, which is the next criteria for qualification. They scored 8 to Hamilton Accies 7. So Wraith Rovers, as things stand, would be the final second place team to go through. However, as I mentioned, Dundee play tomorrow against Inverness Cally Thistle. They're on 6 points and have a goal difference of +2. So if my arithmetic doesn't fail me here, if Dundee win tomorrow against Inverness Cally Thistle by 2 goals or more, then they would progress in place of Wraith Rovers. And just let me check. Dundee have scored 4, so they would, if they only won by 1 goal, then they would have to score a real barrel load to draw level with Wraith on goals scored. So the likelihood is they're going to have to beat Inverness Cally Thistle by 2 clear goals to progress. Otherwise, it will be Wraith Rovers who make their way into the last 16. So join us tomorrow afternoon for more drama from Dens Park. We'll have live commentary. The programme starts at 2 o'clock on Sportsound to watch Dundee against Inverness Cally Thistle. So let's round up all the action from this afternoon. We'll start off in Paisley, where Rory Loy watched St Mirren beat Forfar by 4 goals to 0.
Yes, indeed I did. It was an emphatic win for the Premiership side. All the hard work done in the first half. It only took 13 minutes for Mikael Manderon to make his mark in this match. A header from a corner, 6 yards out, straight into the back of the net. 17 minutes on the clock and he had his second. Great play from Ryan Strain down the right hand side. He flicked it over Finn Robson's head, scampered to the touchline, cut it back, and Mikael Manderon was there to tap it home. Ryan Strain was a standout during the day and he went close himself after 20 minutes. Beautiful little turn in the number 10 position and shot low, just wide of the post. Forfar did have a couple of chances, 21 minutes on the clock, and Josh Skelly's free kick was parried by Hemming, and it was his strike partner Seb Ross who had the next chance after a poor throw in from Richard Taylor, sent him pretty much clean through in goal, but his half volley was sliced high and wide. On 41 minutes, Bacchus ran into Hutchinson in the penalty area and it was deemed to have been a foul by the referee, and O'Hara stepped up to coolly convert the penalty. It was 4 on 44 minutes. A corner to the back post was headed back across by Tanzer, and there was the powerful figure of Alex Gogic to fire home. The second half didn't have any goals. It did have chances, however. A counter-attack from Jimison put McMenamin in one-on-one with the goalkeeper. However, Mark McCallum was equal to the shot, came out and spread himself, made himself big and produced a good save. And in 70 minutes, Lewis Jameson really should have made it 5. Great play from Tanzer down the left-hand side. Fantastic first touch from a diagonal pass, skipped by his man and laid it on a plate for Lewis Jameson. Not the biggest, so possibly not the most polished in the air. However, it did look easier to score than it did to miss. In 72 minutes, Matty Allen cracked the bar for what would have been a consolation goal for Forfar. However, 3 wins from the first 3, but a heavy defeat here today for Forfar sees the game end. St Mirren 4, Forfar 0.
Thanks very much, Rory. Let's head up to Dingwall, where Michael Stewart has been watching Ross County against Kelty Hearts, and maybe a closer encounter than many of us would have expected in the end, Mikey.
Well, yeah, probably. I think that, with the fact that Ross County were sitting top of the group with maximum points, and the way they started the game, getting themselves 2 goals in front fairly early on, it was looking as if it was going to be a routine victory for Ross County. It all started with Josh Sims with a really nice goal inside 13 minutes, just to, as I said, start things well for the home side. And then quickly followed up with Simon Murray doubling the lead 3-0, and it looked as if with that dominance in the game, it was going to be very difficult for Kelty Hearts to be able to work their way back into it. A few minutes later, though, Stephen McCluskey managed to, as I said, against the run of play during commentary, They hadn't really offered much of a threat at that stage, but they got themselves back into the game, making it 2-1 through Stephen McCluskey. A nice finish from inside the box, but 10 yards out on the angle, put it past Ross Laidlaw to make it 2-1. And then really, in the build-up to half-time, they worked themselves back into it, looked as if they were capable of getting more. And half-time, made a wee substitution, brought on Botti Biabi, who played through the middle, real pace, athleticism, and the Ross County defence found that a little bit difficult to deal with. And round about the hour mark, he managed to get himself on the score sheet from a corner kick. It was a really nice ball in from the manager, Michael Tidser, on the far side, left foot in swinging into the 6-yard box, and the Ross County goalkeeper Ross Laidlaw was just pinned. He couldn't really get out to it, and Biabi, up above the rest of the players in there, made it 2-2. And for the rest of the game, it was much of a muchness. There wasn't a great deal in it. Both sides threatening, looking like they were capable of getting the goal that we would have thought would have won it for them. And it was James Brown for Ross County who managed to steer one into the back of the net. I think there was a wee deflection, and there was only 5 minutes to go at that point, and you thought that was game over. Ross County were going to have maximum points and top the group. But in injury time, another one of those moments where it was just a ball over the top, and the pace of Biabi causing real problems. He faced up Jack Baldwin. It was a collision coming together. Right decision though. Stephen McLean pointed to the spot, and up stepped Ross Cunningham to slam it in the back of the net. 3-3 and go to the penalty shootout. And eventually it was Kelty Hearts who scored the final penalty kick to win the game and get the bonus point. Unfortunately for them though, it wasn't enough to be able to get out of the group stages of the Viaplay Cup. Ross County, they topped the group, they're through to the next round, and looking forward to the start of the season.
Thanks, Michael, and apologies again for the fact that we couldn't get Michael on a quality line through it this afternoon, but thanks to Michael for his patience there, and to you all for bearing with us on that front. Let's go across to Fir Park and get a summation of the Motherwell East Fife game, Stephen Craig. And I know you're going to be telling me that Motherwell, as a result of that late Kelty equaliser, Motherwell will be among the 3 seeded teams from this stage to go through to the next round.
Well, they will be, but it was all dependent on Kelty Hearts winning on penalty kicks, I think, as well, by my arithmetic. But listen, Motherwell, first of all, knew they had the win here this afternoon, and then they would have to check results elsewhere. I think Stuart Kettlewell would probably have preferred a higher scoreline. They did get 2 goals in the first half. Young Lennon Miller, 16 years of age, his second goal of the season. He did score against Elgin in the opening fixture of this Viaplay Cup, but certainly a really clever finish. Good counter-attack by Motherwell. He broke on the left-hand side and put it past Fleming and goal. Within 4 minutes, Conor Wilkinson, he got his first goal for Motherwell since he joined in the summer. A lovely strike from 25 yards with his left foot that also left Fleming scrambling down his left-hand side but couldn't keep it out. Jonathan Page, the East Fife captain, was sent off just before half-time, which really turned the tide in Motherwell's favour. Motherwell didn't really punish East Fife enough in the second half. The only goal to add to their 2 from the first half came from Callum Slattery after 66 minutes. Lovely little jinking run on that right-hand side, and he slammed past Fleming to make it 3-0. They pushed and they probed and they tried to get more goals as the goals were getting in around the country and the scorelines were changing. Motherwell had to wait until that penalty shootout up in Dingwall to realise that they will now be seeded in the last 16. They did win their group. It was very close to call, but it's job done for Stuart Kettlewell and his men. Full time here at Fir Park. It's Motherwell 3, East Fife 0.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, you're spot on with that assessment, because Ross County, if they'd got the bonus point, would have joined Motherwell on 11 points, but did have a better goal difference, so they would have just pipped Motherwell. But they lost the penalty shootout, and so they will not be seeded for the last 16, but Motherwell will. Now, let's cross to Coatbridge, where Martin Dowden was watching Albion Rovers against Kilmarnock.
Full-time Albion Rovers 1, Kilmarnock 2. Kilmarnock progress. Undoubtedly, they deserve to do that. They controlled this almost entirely, but will be a touch frustrated at not getting the job done way earlier than they did. Stuart Finlay opened the scoring after getting the end of a nice free kick delivery from Danny Armstrong. They had a number of chances, but got a cushion just before half-time. Marley Watkins with a header. I'm going with an own goal, though appeared to be off target for me and come off Sean Fagan and into the net. They were comfortable then until they weren't from from nowhere, Alex McCaw floated a brilliant through ball over the top. Nia Joseph ran onto it perfectly, an expertly placed header into the corner, and suddenly the result was in a little bit of doubt. The shock never really materialised though. Kilmarnock safely through. I think they'll be looking at that second. Derek, you've got job done. You're through, progressed again in the Cup. How did you feel about how the game unfolded?
I thought the players were terrific from first minute in terms of getting after the game. Sometimes it can feel a wee bit pre-seasony when you come away and you've got to make sure you deal with the game. It's a cup tie that needed to be won, as I said to you ahead of the game. And I thought we'd controlled the game. I thought we were very assured, very professional. Scored a couple of goals first half. We spoke at half time about trying to be a wee bit less precise at times in the final third. Once we get into those wider areas, put balls in, try and get more bodies between the sticks and ask the question. We thought they would come after us a wee bit more, and the change that they made, we anticipated really, with big boy Prince coming on, try to have that nuisance value up there. And we spoke about being ready for that directness. We lose the ball here, halfway line, and for us to then lose on one pass, it's a lovely header for the boy Joseph and a lovely pass. But for us, the level we're going to have to be defending against and playing against, we're going to have to be far better at that. We just kind of amble out, we don't put pressure on the ball, we lose the ball. So disappointed with the goal. They never really troubled us after that, but while it's 2-1, it's never comfortable, and it shouldn't have been like that. So disappointed with some aspects of the second half, but as we've seen, loads of Premier League clubs have struggled, and it's just about getting through it. Job done, top to group. Some Premier League teams didn't get any Championship clubs in the group. We get Dunfermline and Andreath Rovers, two teams I think will do well, so it was a tough group for us to come out of. And to do it really unbeaten through 90 minutes. I know we lost the penalties to Dunfermline the other night, but pretty happy with where we are, considering the amount of work that's had to be done. We're still trying to get boys up to speed, and top in the group was the objective, and we've done it.
I know you're looking to kick on from last season. You've rebuilt the squad to a large degree. What improvements do you expect to see? And what you do have, of course, is that home form from last season to hopefully take forward.
Yeah, try to maintain the home form is a challenge, and it's something that we've got to try and work towards, and certainly be better on the road. That's why disappointed losing the goal. We got a good clean sheet last Saturday at Dunfermline. I thought we were very solid, and we came with the intention of being difficult to play against there. Today's different. It's a game we've got to go and win, and it's a very attacking lineup, but I still feel there should be a responsibility to keep the clean sheet. I think this season, we're having so many changes made, try to get those understanding relationships. I'm finding it about my players, they're finding it about us, we're finding it about each other, and building those relationships are going to be key. But I do feel that we have got made some good signings, good experience in the right areas. We're still short at centre forward, and you see that today, and a lot of the times that can be the difference. Vassell hopefully gets a good week's work now into him, and gets himself ready for the Rangers game. We're hoping to try and make another signing at centre forward, and I think once we try and have more potency and more threat at the top end of the pitch, I think we can be quite happy with the work what we've done. We're still trying to maybe bring in one more plus a centre forward at the minute, and if we can do that, then I'll be pleased with the amount of work that's been done. Our recruitment team and the board and everybody involved have worked extremely hard to make so many signings and to try and get a squad in place that allows us to top this group, because 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think 4 weeks ago we had no goalkeepers and 2 defenders signed. So we've came a long way, and we're still now looking for those improvements from everybody as we go forward.
Yeah, big season ahead for Derek McInnes and Kilmarnock. Leanne, obviously an impressive and unbeaten League Cup campaign to kick them off, but it's a really tough start for them, isn't it, against Rangers?
It is, yeah. But they've had some good game minutes into the players. Derek speaking there about hoping to strengthen the squad, and he's had a couple of good additions into the group already. You could see that. I was at the Dunfermline Kelly game last weekend. Mayo, brilliant signing for them. Getting Stuart Finlay back in, really good signing. It allows you to bolster your defence, which is going to be a huge thing for Kilmarnock. And just in the interview there, Derek's been asked about the home form as well from last season, and he'll hope that he can continue that on this season, because it was a big part of the reason why they survived in the division. But up top ultimately is probably where the stumbling block could come in, and obviously Vassell, big player to have. Ennis Cameron has had some good game minutes in this League Cup section, but he's not always a player that has had that consistency in minutes when it's come to the Premiership games. So certainly I'm sure Derek will be looking for not just a number to come in, a player that's going to come in and really push to be a starting player. But Derek will be delighted. He speaks about the fact there that there was 2 Championship sides in the group as well, and it wasn't an easy one for them to come through, so he'll be delighted with that.
Yep, so Kilmarnock winning Group F on 10 points. Wraith Rovers, they are at the moment in contention to go through, but they'll have to wait to see what happens at Dens Park tomorrow between Dundee and Inverness Cali Thistle. Let's just wrap up some more of the games, and we'll go to Bonnyrigg Rose against Airdrie. Chick Young was watching that one.
Yep, well, it's a gold star in the report card of Airdrie, who have a 100% record from the qualification group, 12 points out of a possible 12. They puffed a little bit for me. I know the manager, when I spoke to him, Rhys McCabe, did disagree with that. We'll hear for him shortly, Alistair. But 1-0 win, the penalty that won it came. I have to say, maybe Airdrie did relax a little bit after that. All credit to Bonnyrigg Rose. They made it difficult for the new championship team, and I think they'll make a real impact in the championship. Airdrie, I think they've got a wise manager in Rhys McCabe. I think he's a young man who's going to make a real impact in Scottish football, and he's still got a lot of ability as a player. They got through it with, as I say, not totally convincing performances. There were 1 or 2 chances in the game, but perhaps the forced substitution of Nikolai Todorov, who went off to be replaced by Dean McMaster he had an injury, that was maybe a little problematic for Airdrie. Looks good for Bonnyrigg Rose. There's something about them, I have to say. They made it tough for Airdrie, but at the end of a sunny afternoon in Bonnyrigg, it's all plaudits to Airdrie, who go through with a 100% record, 12 points out of 12.
Yeah, very impressive from Rhys McCabe's side. All told, let's hear what Rhys McCabe had to say to Chick.
Rhys, that was, would it be fair to say you made a wee bit of heavy weather of that?
No, I think the opposite. I think coming to these kind of venues, it's always about rolling the sleeves up and getting through the kind of physicality and the mental side of it. And I stressed that to the boys before the game, that if we match the intensity that they'll bring physically, and if we can impose ourselves earlier in the game and match them, that it would only be a matter of time before the quality would kind of come through. And I think you've seen that first half was dominated large parts of the game without really creating anything, but then you started to see the tired with us knocking the ball about, and we've probably created enough chances to win the game. But again, conditions and whatnot, I'm not too unhappy about the performance.
Yeah, here's me being critical of a team who have got 100% record in the group. That must give you some satisfaction.
Yeah, but again, I'm self-critical and I'm critical myself. You know, it's even little targets through the game about keeping a clean sheet and certain individuals getting 90 minutes and whatnot. So there was loads of positives and loads of things that we wanted to take for the game. I think obviously a point was all we needed, but to come away and get the 3 was job well done.
And seeded, of course, which helps you.
Again, but I just said that there in the interview, it doesn't bother me. You know, you're going to have to beat what's in front of you. So yes, for the club we'd like a big tie, of course, to generate some funds and some gate money and stuff. But listen, it's irrelevant to me. I'm not going to change, so I'm not really bothered if we get.
This championship is going to be wide open, in my opinion. There's no reason why you can't be in the correct half of it, and in fact beyond that, and challenging for a playoff.
Aye, but again, it's a mentality thing, you know, coming for the league above and the league below to now playing in a league above. It's about mentality. But clubs there that have been kind of secure and well established in there for years, so it's about going up there and imposing our game and making sure that we go in with the right mentality, that we fear no one. We're going to go out there and play our style of football and hopefully kind of take it to the rest of the teams in the league.
Yeah, really interested to hear from Rhys McCabe there, Leanne. As Chick was pointing out, they look like they've got a positive season ahead of them, having come up through the playoffs to the championship. Still just 31, Rhys McCabe, but he speaks very well. He's what it sounds very level-headed. Interested and keen to see how they get on in the championship this season?
Yeah, really interested. Excited for it actually, and I know a lot of people associated with Airdrie are delighted that they're in the championship as well, and they're looking forward to the season ahead. I think Rhys speaks so well. I think he's really calm, really level-headed, as you've said. Knows the game inside out. Has worked his network in the game as well to look to try and recruit and strengthen the team. But again, being in at Airdrie, we train there quite often at Motherwell, and everybody behind the scenes is really impressed with the work that he does on the pitch, off the pitch, the way he interacts with the group, the types of sessions that he delivers, the way he's got the team playing. You can see that. And I think they've recruited fairly well in this window, so I'm sure they're desperate for the season just to come round now. A really impressive League Cup run as well, 12 points. I think the only side that have managed to do that as well, so it's a statement early on, and it's now up to them to look to continue that into their league form.
It's an intriguing first fixture in the Championship for them, actually, away to Dunfermline, who of course won League One ahead of them. Airdrie finished third, but beat Accies in the playoff to join Dunfermline in the Championship. So that's next Saturday. Let's just switch back to rugby for the moment and join Andy Burke at Murrayfield, who was watching Scotland against Italy. Andy, how did it go?
Well, Scotland emerged, not hugely convincingly, Al, but they did emerge with the victory by 25 points to 13 over Italy. A monsoon just before kick-off made for a really scrappy affair, particularly in the first half. A lot of drop balls, a lot of stop-start play, not a lot of rhythm to the game. Darcy Graham got the only try of the first half, a nice cross-field kick from Ben Healy on his first test start, found him, Darcy Graham, and acres of space to touch down. But Scotland went in at the break, a point down. Tommaso Allen with 2 penalties. And it was only when Ben Healy responded in kind did they get their noses back in front. Darcy Graham scored again to put Scotland 9 points to the good at 15-6. But Monte Ioane went over for Italy, and Allen converted from out wide to make it a bit nervy round here at 15-13. But another Healy penalty eased the nerves somewhat. And then in the final play of the game, Josh Bayliss ploughed over in the corner, having come off the bench, and Healy converted to make it a 12-point victory for Scotland. It was a much changed team for Scotland, Al. Gregor Townsend leaving out the likes of his captain Jamie Ritchie and Finn Russell and Duhan van der Merwe amongst others. They will all return, you would imagine, next weekend when Scotland take on the World Cup hosts France, but they will need to improve on the performance they gave here. But they got the win, they've got their World Cup preparations up and running with victory over Italy by 25 points to 13.
Great stuff, Berkey. Thanks for joining us on Sportsound this afternoon. And you can hear more about the rugby with Andy and Tom English and Peter Wright, who I would imagine also will be joined by the Scotland head coach Gregor Townsend on the Scottish Rugby podcast, which they're recording just in the next wee while. And it will be available on BBC Sounds later on this evening. Now, back to the football and back to the League Cup. And Livingston, another team who have made it through, but didn't sound like it was a plain sailing for them against Clyde this afternoon, Jane Lewis.
Yeah, Livingston won, Clyde nil. But yeah, you're right, Livingston should have made this one more comfortable. They had by far the lion's share of possession, but it was just a really frustrating first half, especially as they had chances, but they just couldn't convert them. The second half saw a bit more of the same, really, with Livingston showing a bit more intent, certainly some possession and chances as well. Guthrie had a couple of really clear-cut chances, decent headers from really good deliveries. Clyde goalkeeper Jack Leafield, who was in goal actually this week, then pulled off a stunning double save, saving 2 point-blank efforts from Guthrie and then Montano. It was really impressive stuff from him, but he couldn't keep out Bruce Anderson's low shot 8 minutes later. The goalie was wrong-footed and the ball trundled over the line, which had been shot from some distance, it had to be said. Anderson then had the chance to make it 2-0 and somewhat a bit more of a comfortable watch for David Martindale. Martin Rennie handled the ball as it came into the box. Penalty awarded, but Anderson's spot kick was well saved. It was a decent height, though, you could argue as well. Clyde rarely threatened. They had half chances, really. They held their shape well enough, but not too much by way of attacking threat. But they were seriously hampered by injuries. I think it's fair to mention that within their squad. But Livingston, it's them that go through in the League Cup, and as Group C winners as well, it finished here 1-0.
Thanks a lot, Jane. And after the match, Jane spoke to the Livy boss, David Martindale.
Well, David, I guess job done in the end. You're through and as group winners as well. But was that quite a frustrating watch for you for a lot of that game?
The first half was frustrating, but I thought Clyde, their shape was very good. I said that to Brian, I said that to their players after the game. I thought they worked extremely hard in the game. He denies, dropped into a low box, so it's difficult to play against it. At times they created a wee bit of threat at times on the counter, but we've probably got to move the ball a wee bit quicker. So it's difficult, got a wee bit more information into the players at half time, what I felt would help us. going into the second half, and I think we started the second half fairly well.
They were certainly a bit more intent in the second half. What was that, the message from you at half-time?
It wasn't so much the intent. I felt it was too many players dropping behind the game in the first half. There was too many unforced long balls. Too many players want to run in behind, and the rest of the players want to drop behind the game. So it was fairly easy to play against. So told them to stick to the shape that we'd put out and please stay in their areas of the park that we're trying to manipulate the ball to. They've done that a lot better in the second half. We probably should have had, let's be honest. I think me Brucey's got to do better with the one he's clean through and goal, but he tries to drag it back. He's on his right foot. I don't know why he does that. Should do better there.
Guthrie had a few chances too, didn't he?
Guthrie, it was a couple of half chances with him. I felt it was nothing clear. It was all kind of balls that he'd got in the end in the box, but then he took his touch and then he was closed down. There was 3 men round him. A couple of half decent headers. So, listen, probably a wee bit more composure in the final third, but it's easy saying that. It's easy me sitting saying that. You need to show that. In the game, sometimes you get caught up in the game. That's probably what happened with the lads. But then wee Brucey comes up with, I think I was probably the only one in the stadium shouting, don't shoot, pass, because the message in the first half at half-time was an extra pass. You need to find an extra pass. And wee Brucey took a shot on for, I don't know, 30 yards on his right foot for a terrible angle, and it goes in. So that's football for you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's, these are the ones when you're probably the smaller club. These are the kind of things that happen to me when I go to the bigger clubs in the Premier League. So fortunately this time we've come out on the positive side of it.
Obviously we got to see some of your new faces as well. Nottingham came on for his debut. What did you make of the new boys?
Like Big Knots, like him.
He's got some throwing in him as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, that was the only reason I signed him. No, I'm like, that was actually an added bonus. It was we're at training. He was actually going to start the Cove game. We shaped up, and I was like, I've got a long throw, Gaffer. What? Show me. So he says, he threw it. I said, Big man, that's the longest throw we've ever had at the club. You're on the throw-ins. So he had a bit of a sore groin when he woke up on Tuesday morning. He made his debut on Tuesday. Tom Parks came in, played 90 on Tuesday, was very, very good for us, and I felt he tired a wee bit because that's probably Parks' proper first 90 in 2 years, so to speak, round about that. So then when we managed to get Big Knots his debut, but he does what he says in the tin, wins his headers, wins his tackles, cover the ground well, and he's actually no bad in the ball. Like you seen him, he was overlapping right centre back there, and he got in behind a couple of occasions. So I'll need to ask him if that was a cross or a shot. Remember that one? I hope he's going to tell me it was a shot and it wasn't a cross. At least I can half accept that.
David Martindale there, the Livy boss, after their 1-0 victory over bottom of the group Clyde, which secured top spot for Livy and ensured their place in the last 16. The other game in that group was in Hamilton. It was Hamilton Accies against Cove Rangers. Derek Ferguson was watching that one for us.
It was an entertaining game, I've got to say, just sitting here thinking back, but unfortunately, as we know, both will not progress in the tournament as it finished Hamilton Accies 2, Cove 2. Accies, for me, were the better side in the first 45 minutes, opening scoring in 13 minutes. Came from a Jamie Burjonis powerful shot from the edge of the box. Cove swimming in goals, unable to deal with it, and there it was Kevin O'Hara, alive as usual, to knock the home ball, knock the ball home from close range, as all good strikers do. Cove, well, they levelled just before the break in 44 minutes. I've got to say it was a magnificent strike from Mark Gallagher. He was about 30 yards out, I think, left-hand side. It had pace, it had dip on it. It gave the goalkeeper absolutely no chance. That goal certainly fueled Cove going into the second half. They took the lead on the hour. It was Paul McGowan. So much better in the second half with a precise pass to the incoming, I think it was Rumen Burrow, yes it was, to glance his header past the despairing Smith in goals. Golding then had an opportunity going towards the end in 74 minutes. It was a strong running shot into the box, producing again a solid save from Smith. Accies were struggling strangely at this stage, but with probably the last kick of the ball, what a strike it was, way out on the right hand side. It came from Reagan Tumulty. Got to say, probably outrageous, but it just flew over the keeper into the back of the net, as we know, to make it 2 each. We go into penalty kicks, and as we know, as good as Cove were in the second half, they were certainly better when it came to the penalty kicks, with Kerr, Burrell, Golding and Makita converting their penalty kicks. O'Hara and Murray for Accies, but unfortunately Tumilty and McGlynn missing for the Accies, so it didn't do anybody any favours. But thinking back, just what I've said there, Al, it was a good game, but I think there's a little bit of work to be done from both sides. So as I say, congratulations to Livy moving forward.
Yeah, a painful one for John Rankin, particularly there, Leanne, in the sense that if they had won that penalty shootout even, they would have got the bonus point, which would have moved them on to 10, albeit wouldn't have won them the group, but they would have been assured of one of the second place spots in the last 16.
Yeah, it just shows you how narrow it can be, especially when that bonus point's up for grabs. And I'm sure John's had that discussion with the players, and it has such fine margins. It comes down to that level of concentration, perhaps even as a player group. I don't know how much they would have discussed the permutations going into the game, but often these are the types of conversations that you need to have and understand exactly what is required and the different types of scenarios that could play out within the day. But no, certainly a sore one, you're right.
Hamilton Accies ultimately at this stage at least missing out just on goals scored. Dundee can still pip Raith Rovers, who as things stand will join Stirling and Morton as the best placed runners up in the last 16, but Dundee can usurp Raith Rovers by beating Inverness Caley Thistle by 2 clear goals or more tomorrow. Now, Thomas Duncan, we've kept you waiting long enough there at Firhill. Last of the full-time reports, you were watching Partick Thistle against the Spartans.
No problem, Al. Yeah, it was indeed. I mean, it was job done for Partick Thistle in the end. They won by 2-1 here at Firhill, but they were certainly made to work for it by Spartans, who've been a bit of a revelation in this group stage. Beat Dundee United, of course, beat Peterhead, were almost got a draw against Falkirk, the newcomers to League 2. They've been fantastic, and they had the best opportunity, or went closest in the first half, and it could have been a goal of the season contender. Jamie Dishington almost chipped David Mitchell from about 35 yards out. It came back off the crossbar. Blair Henderson was waiting to tap in, only for Harry Milne to get across and make an absolutely superb block to deny the striker. Partick Thistle improved after the break and they took the lead. James Lyon, the youngster, 20 years old, with his second goal in as many games. He ran across his marker and met Stuart Bannigan's cross, and he was heading away from goal, managed to turn it back towards the far post, and it kissed the post and went across the line and into the net. Lovely finish, and that was Partick Thistle in front. And from there they were in control. They looked fairly comfortable. They were passing the ball, fizzing about, just didn't create too many opportunities. They made a couple of changes. Tommy Adeloy and Blair Alston, the new signings, came off the bench to make their debuts, but then they just started to grow a bit sloppy, and they got a couple of warnings before Spartans hit back on 81 minutes. Blair Henderson scored his 4th goal of this League Cup group stage. He scored in every game. It was Bradley White, the sub, went down the left and just crossed it wonderfully into Henderson, and he had time, despite there was about 3 Partick Thistle defenders there, but he had time to take a touch and stick it past David Mitchell. And at that point, with 9 minutes left, there was a lot of unrest here at Firhill, and at that point Falkirk were looking like they were heading through as group winners on goal difference, but Thistle got a reprieve. They piled the pressure on, and a long throw-in came in from Aaron Muirhead. It fell to Tommy Adeloy, whose goal-bound shot was blocked by the arm of James Cragen. The referee, Gavin Duncan, pointed to the spot, and Cragen was sent off, having already been booked. He got a second booking. He got his marching orders for that, and Brian Graham stepped up, smashed it into the top corner past Blair Carswell to restore Thistle's lead. And from there, they saw it out relatively comfortably, and from there, they were able to top the group. So yeah, the positive for Partick Thistle. They played well at times. They probably look for a more cutting edge in the final third, but ultimately it's job done at Firhill. It finished Partick Thistle 2, Spartans 1.
Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, Partick Thistle doing just enough to pip Falkirk there for top spot. Falkirk ultimately finishing second after their victory over Peterhead. Dundee United in third. So let's hear from the Partick Thistle manager, Chris Doolan. He has been speaking to Thomas.
Chris, I wouldn't say it was nervy at the end, but you were made to work right to the end of the 90 by Spartans there to clinch your place in the last 16.
Yeah, of course, and credit to Spartans, because they're a good side. Yes, they had to defend a lot today, and they defended the box well, but everything else they tried to counter-attack at times, and they showed that even though they've got a lot of physicality, they've still got a lot of pace in the team. They've got youthful legs as well, so they're a difficult side to play against. I can see why they've picked up points already in this group. So, but delighted for our boys because the way they've went about all the games and came out on top of the group. Is credit to them, and especially coming through games like this where it does get nervy at the end. You know, there's a lot riding on the penalty kick at the end. But Brian's, you know, the experienced guy. He puts it down and he's confident. He goes and scores and he gets us through.
I was going to say, did you have any doubts that Brian, because Blair Carswell, the Spartans keepers, got a good record. He saved one from Tony Watt in the first game, but I suppose Brian's been there and done it so many times. You had full confidence that he'd stick that way.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Aaron Muirhead probably was wanting the ball off him. I think when you're really confident as a striker, you put it down. Yes, Brian's missed a few. I think he'll hold his hands up, but he keeps coming back. And sometimes that's the sign of a good striker, is that, you know, you miss chances or you miss penalty kicks, but you keep coming back for more. And look what happens. You know, you score the goal, gets the team through. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. But you know, the credit for the guys. You have to be brave to be a footballer, especially in those circumstances. And Brian certainly showed that. He certainly showed that leadership. And delighted for him that he actually put it in the back of the net.
You played some good stuff today. Moved the ball pretty well, I thought. How do you feel the team is as you go into the league season next week?
Yeah, look, I'm happy the way it's shaping up. We'll look to try and add another 2 or 3 soon, as quick as possible. So hopefully by the time we start the championship season, that, you know, we've got a couple more bodies in. But again, you look at the younger lads coming through, they're there in merit, and they're not just ticking boxes. They're worthy starters in this team, and they'll get their opportunities. For me, this is what the club's about, building those young players, giving them opportunity, as well as the experience of guys like, you know, Blair Alston that we bring in today. He's the experienced ones round about the young lads to help them and encourage them, and we've got to have a good balance of both. So hopefully in the next week or so we'll be able to bring in another couple who will add that bit of balance of experience and youthful legs as well. I
was going to say, because James Lyon got the opener, how reliant will you be on some of these young guys this season, and what's a long kind of gruelling season in the Championship? Yeah,
I don't want it to be that we're relying on them, you know, week in, week out. I understand how the young players are. They have huge ups and a lot of downs as well, but you've got to be careful with them, you've got to manage them properly. But it's about opportunity, and the way they've come through these games, I'm delighted with, because this was their opportunity to show everybody what they can do, and we've come through them well, and they've shown up very well. So you know, people have their eyes on them. They'll be wanting to see them do more. And for me, I just don't want too much pressure on them. But ultimately, like I said, they're here on merit, and they'll get an opportunity just like every other first team player.
And just finally, for the club to get through to the last 16, it's big, isn't it, financially, for the fans, for the players, everyone? Yeah, of course, and I understand that. You know, at the start when we set out for this, I knew what was at stake. You know, that's pressure there. Yeah, there's always pressure. There's pressure in every game. For me, I just feel as if, you know, I don't want the players to feel under that kind of pressure. They go out and play their game, but I knew what was at stake. I knew, you know, the finances and stuff that come in off the back of this is great. And you know, but for the players, it's about confidence. It's about being ready for the championship season, and no better way than to finish with a win today.
That was the Partick Thistle manager Chris Doolan talking to Thomas Duncan after their 2-1 win against Spartans, which secured their place in the last 16. Now Forfar fell just short. They only needed a point against St Mirren this afternoon to progress, but Ray McKinnon's League 2 side ended up 4-0 losers to Stephen Robinson's outfit, and Rory Loy has been speaking to the St Mirren manager.
Stephen, there must have been a feeling of deja vu after losing 1-0 to Montrose in the opening group game. However, 3 wins and 3 clean sheets later, rounded off with today's emphatic win. You must be delighted to top the group.
Yeah, look, we've done what we set out to do, which is qualify for the next stages of the cup competition. I'll say it, and I can say it now that we've qualified. It's really tricky, you know. You're playing players longer than you want, and in these games, you're signing players perhaps quicker than you want to because you're getting judged straight away. But we've managed to navigate through. First half was a very competent performance. You know, a lot of good things. Second half, it became a bit of a pre-season game playing in front of them. But the good thing was we got minutes in Keanu Bacchus, more minutes in Stav. We got Micah with 2 goals. We got minutes in James, who's not played for nearly 12 weeks now. You know, so that's a big plus for me. Ultimately, second half, our goal was to try and prep ourselves for Hibs and have as many options and game-ready options as possible.
Yeah, you touch on Stav Nakmani there. You know, himself with 2 goals during this. the group stages and Mikel Mandaron with 3. Just how important is it for your new strikers and strikers to get off the mark so early in the season?
Yeah, it is. It's difficult. People got to remember, Stav's a 20-year-old kid from Israel, coming into a new system, new country, new environment. Mick is exactly what we thought. He's a handful. We're trying to get him to stay in the middle of the box more so that he can score goals, which he proved today. Conor McMenamin, that's his first 90 minutes. Since the league ended in Northern Ireland. So there's a lot of boys, especially forward players, who've got more game time, and to hit the ground running, scoring goals is vital, and they've done that.
Yeah, you predominantly played 3-5-2 last season, however started 3-4-3 today. Certainly worked with wing backs and wide men, all influential. Is it important to build on your success from last season that you're able to mix things up and adapt to different formations?
Yeah, I think it's something that we felt last year in games that were tight, especially against the lower teams. We struggled when people went 3-5-2 and matched us. It was a little bit of a lottery who won, who made the least mistakes at times. So we've brought players in we feel can adjust to the system. We can flip back to 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 at any stage, or Golga steps in and we become a 4-3-3. It's there's plenty of options, and as I say, the bigger thing for me is there's more options now from the bench. I didn't even put Alex Grieve on the pitch today, which obviously he'll be disappointed about, but he's still a big part of our plans. It's just seeing other people and seeing other options.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of pundits on the show today said they're surprised there's not been a little bit more interest in Ryan Strain. I thought he was magnificent again today. Put the second one on a plate for Mikel Mandaron. Are you surprised, not that you would encourage it, that there's not been a little bit more interest in players like himself?
Ryan's done terrifically well for us. He's a very, very good footballer. When he keeps things simple, he's really good. If he doesn't complicate the game, he can be a very, very good player. But certainly, listen, we've had no bids for him, no offers for him, and we don't want to let him go, and we won't be selling them for money. That we don't need to sell them. We're not in a position like we were last year. It's very much part of what we're doing. But listen, he was terrific today for the 60 minutes he played. He was disappointed to come off, as he always is, because he can't understand we're actually protecting him and saving him. But long may it continue that people aren't realising how good a player he is.
Yeah, definitely. That's outgoings in terms of your current squad. Any other positions you've got your eye on in terms of strengthening, or you kind of done in the transfer market?
No, we still want another striker in. I think there'll still be a little bit of movement in and out of the club. We want another, strong physical striker. We've got lots of boys who can play off Mika. In an ideal world, we get another left back to challenge Scott as well. But we haven't got an endless pit of money, so it's okay. Everybody's saying you need this, you need that. We don't have them funds. We have to be clever with what we do. We've got Conor McMenamin as well, who's an international footballer. He's played at left wing back in that position, so people don't realise that, as he's actually played probably more international football at wing back than he has in the forward areas. So we've got options there anyway if we want to do that. We've got LJ can play there as an attacking wing back, so we've got options. But in an ideal world, we'd bring another striker and another left back in.
Yeah, and just finally, the league campaign will come into sharp focus this week. You speak to a lot of managers about their objectives. They say get to 40 points, that's the first and foremost. However, after such a strong season last season, is your ambition to back into that top 6 again?
I think everybody in the league, out with the 5 people that people expect to be certainties with their budgets and the size of the football club, everyone's trying to get that last spot in the top 6. First and foremost, a club of our size, with what we have, we need to stay in the division. I repeat myself that we spent a lot of time out of this division in the last 40 years. We have to become a regular SPL football club, and I'm going to be boring and say get the 40 points and then see where we go from there.
Stephen Robinson there, the St Mirren manager. He was talking, Leanne, about versatility in terms of, or flexibility in terms of the formation and stuff like that. But Rory Loy, I have to say, showing great versatility, stepping seamlessly from pundit into reporter role with a top interview there.
Very good, yeah, really insightful, some brilliant questions. And I actually think managers appreciate that at times, when you want to speak and dissect the performance and you recognise certain things that have happened on the pitch as well. It's a different type of interview, and Stephen Robinson was very relaxed and open to the discussion. So playing down the chat around Ryan Strain and possibly alluding to the fact that he's a player that needs to develop with a keep it simple quote. He works with him day to day, so he'll know exactly what he's talking about. But a good performance from St Mirren, and it rounds it off. And they've got a tough enough start to the Premiership season, but 2 home games out of their first 3, which will be good for them. Away at Easter Road in the opening day for them, and followed up by a home game to Dundee and then Aberdeen. So 3 tasty games, but certainly 3 games that I'm sure Stephen Robinson, his versatile side, will embrace.
Rory, obviously having watched the 90 minutes then this afternoon, do you think St Mirren are in good shape going into that first league fixture at Easter Road next weekend?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, they've goals all over the pitch. You know, Mark O'Hara's good for a goal. Gogic will pop up and get you a goal. Their 2 strikers, as I mentioned, have got up and running with 5 goals between them. So, yes, I think they'll be able to soak up pressure. They've got a strong back 3, big back 3 as well. And then the 2 wing backs are so influential, and that's why I touched on the shape, because I've never really seen Stephen Robinson at St Mirren play anything other than a 3-5-2, so that's why it kind of stood out to me. But it did work today, and I just wonder if, you know, he's a bit fearful that teams will have worked out how to play against that 3-5-2, especially with the likes of Curtis Main. I mean, you can work out how to play against Curtis Main, but he's so strong that sometimes you just can't stop him. But I think that potentially would have been a concern for Stephen Robinson. So maybe a little bit of the reason behind trying a new formation, just so that he's got that up his sleeve if he feels that teams are matching up with him and making life difficult for him. But I think they're well versed for the new season, absolutely, and I fully expect them to be in and around that top 6 hunt again.
Yeah, so remember there were lots of permutations going into the final weekend of fixtures. Just to reiterate, the group winners were Ayr, Livingston, Airdrie, Ross County, Kilmarnock, Motherwell, St Mirren and Partick Thistle. The 2 teams who are guaranteed to go through as best place runners-up at the moment are Stirling Albion and Morton. Currently sitting as the 3rd team who would go through are Raith Rovers, who are one of the many who are on 9 points. A goal difference of +3 and goals scored of 8. So they currently sit in 3rd place, as I say. But Dundee, who play Inverness Caley Thistle tomorrow, can move on to 9 points and need to win by 2 clear goals in order to leap over Raith Rovers and into the last 16. So lots of teams doing extremely well today, Stephen Craigan. But I do want to touch on a really incredible scoreline in Perth. It's a shame we actually didn't have a reporter up in at McDermott Park for that St Johnstone Stirling Albion game. Brilliant result for Darren Young and Stirling Albion to secure their place in the last 16. But we cannot overlook that level of defeat for St Johnstone under Stephen McLean.
Well, unfortunately for Darren Young, his side won't be the story. His side won't make the headlines. Clearly, all the focus will be on St Johnstone. You only think what a few years ago they'd won the double cup competition. They then had to go into the playoff to stay in the Premiership. They didn't make it out of the group stages last year in the Viaplay Cup, or as it was the Premier Sports Cup then. So, it seems a club in decline and a slight concern that, they've been in the top flight, they've been there regularly. Since Tommy Wright left, then Callum Davidson came in, Stephen McLean. He's a very inexperienced manager, and sometimes when you have that inexperience, you might need that older figurehead round about you. I would imagine tonight he'll be thinking about speaking to people, older people who he's worked with in the game, just as a sounding board to try and get his points across. Are the players listening to what's happening? Are the players good enough? There'll be so much doubt in his mind about what's going on around the football club, about how he's approaching things. He's not getting a response from his players. He did at the end of last season to make sure they stayed in the top flight, but he clearly hasn't had a response this season. I think there was something like 13 or 14 players left in Johnston, and there's been nowhere near that brought back in again. So clearly they're going to be light in numbers. They're lacking quality. They're lacking confidence. And it's going to be a worrying 3 or 4 weeks for Stephen McLean, because if he doesn't get off to a good start in the league campaign, he doesn't pick up some points, he has a heavy defeat here or there, the St Johnstone board will have a big decision to make even this early in the season, because clearly what has gone on up to this point hasn't been good enough.
Yeah, Leanne, 3 points from a group that included Ayr United, Stennismuir, Alloa and Stirling Albion is simply not good enough for a Premiership outfit, is it?
No, it's not. And as I say, a lot of managers will look at the League Cup and view it differently, whether it's come way too early for St Johnstone with regards to recruitment. Stephen's alluding there to the amount of players that have left the club. But the looks of things have struggled to get players in as well. I don't think that the squad looks as strong as it could at this stage of the season. And whether Stephen McLean has looked at it and tried to treat it more as pre-season games, and the club understand that it's very early on and they're not at the level that they hoped. But still, there was ample opportunities within that group to pick up maximum points. Today being one at home, and they've fallen short of that. So it's really disappointing, and it will unfortunately put the pressure on Stephen McLean early on. And as Cragg says, if he doesn't pick up the points in the first kind of 3-4 weeks of the season, we know how quickly the pressure intensifies in managers, unfortunately.
Also in that group, Ayr United with a thumping of Alloa 6-0 to finish group leaders. Derek Ferguson, it looks like Lee Bullen, despite Derek's left us actually, I'm afraid. So let's turn to Rory. You saw a lot of Ayr United last season, and clearly they've lost Dipo Akinyemi. But I mean, it looks like in terms of the goals they've rattled in today, they're not going to overly miss him.
Yeah, well, Lee Bullen alluded to that in his interview last week, not specifically about the striking area and Dipo Akinyemi in particular, but the fact that he feels they're actually in a better place at this stage of this season than they were last. I almost got the impression that he felt that they probably slightly overachieved, and it was more of a kind of a 2-year target to really push for promotion rather than that first year. But they started so well, and it just seemed to snowball from there. So yeah, look, they've had a fantastic group campaign. He'll be looking to take that into the league, and they'll miss Dipo Akinyemi. Anybody would, a club at that level, of course. But it looks like they've replaced him at this point, but a lot of players can impress in these games and then go missing a little bit when the league stuff starts. So he'll be keeping his fingers crossed that that's not the case. But he's done an excellent job at Ayr United, Lee Bullen, he really has, and good luck to him this season.
Yeah, and before we go, Leanne, let's just touch on tomorrow's game, Dundee against Inverness Cally Thistle. As I mentioned, it's live with us on Sportsound from 2 o'clock from Dens Park. Stuart Cosgrove, I think it was, earlier on, just raised the question, is it a little bit unfair that Dundee go into that game knowing exactly what they have to do?
Possibly, yeah, because it does make a difference. Certainly a lot of the teams, Hamilton Accies being one, as we discussed earlier on, perhaps didn't understand exactly what they would have needed, even getting into right down to the penalty shootout. So listen, it's the way the competition is played out. There's been games up until this point that have been played in different days, but I always feel when a group stage like this ends that all the teams should be playing and it should be finalised on the same day, so it's a level playing field for everyone. But Dundee, they know exactly what has to be done, and it's over to them for tomorrow. I'm sure there'll be a couple of teams that will be watching with interest.
Oh, absolutely. And briefly, from what you've seen of either of the teams so far, do you fancy Dundee to get that 2-goal margin of victory?
Well, listen, the fact that the incentive is there now, Inverness won't be expecting to go through. The league campaign kicks off at the weekend, so again, risking players. Will they go full strength Inverness? I'm not entirely sure that they will, so I do think that Dundee probably could turn it over. Yeah, well, we shall see. I'll be up at Dens myself tomorrow for that one, but many thanks for joining me, and the rest of the guys. Thanks to the guys for seeing me through this on Open All Mics. It's time now for David Curry and Liam McLeod to take the reins, and with fans from clubs across the country, preview the new Scottish Premiership season, which kicks off next Saturday on Sportsound.